Chapter 1051, Fairy Haoyu's Sudden Appearance. 2. Where is she? How'd she vanish? Everyone exclaimed in surprise when they saw the empty throne. They all became momentarily stunned. Suddenly, one of the saint rulers who had cast a saint-tier battle skill earlier seemed to think of something. A gleam of light flashed across his eyes, and he immediately flew to the throne. A white blur flashed past as soon as he approached the throne. The bloodied, white tiger had suddenly appeared before him. It opened its mouth and spat out a fist-sized ball of energy. Bang! With a muffled sound, the ball of energy exploded on the person's chest. The ball turned his chest into a bloody mess, causing him to immediately fly back as he vomited blood. Many of the people present saw what the saint ruler tried to do. With a slight thought, quite a few of them saw through his intentions. They all began to leap toward the throne without any hesitation in attempt to sit on it. Roar! The white tiger produced a roar to the sky, guarding the throne from everyone who tried to approach it. Although it was heavily injured, its might did not decrease at all. Vaguely, its presence even seemed more powerful than before. However, there were just too many saint rulers who charged at the throne. There were even quite a few heaven saint masters between them who wanted to try their luck, so it was impossible for the white tiger to block everyone just by itself. 3 saint rulers had already made their way past the white tiger and arrived before the throne, elbowing their way onto the throne all at the same time. The throne levitated 10 meters in the sky as it shined with a faint layer of moonlight force. It was much greater than the dragon thrones used by emperors. It seemed like a bed. It was large enough for 4 or 5 people to sit on at the same time. As the 3 saint rulers sat on the throne at the same time, joy immediately burst forth inside them. However, before they could celebrate, their expressions suddenly changed. In that short moment, all of their auras vanished, and they became extremely pale and haggard. Afterward, they fell off the throne, landing heavily on the ground. They probably could not get up anymore. Many people witnessed what happened to the 3 of them. The saint rulers who were just about to plunk their bottoms on the throne immediately halted as they stared at the 3 unmoving people on the ground in surprise. Oh no, the throne is weird. You can't sit on it. The saint force in all 3 of them has been completely sucked away by the throne, a saint ruler said in fear. Immediately, everyone around the throne stopped moving. They stopped in the surroundings as they gazed at the throne in shock and suspicion. No one dared to sit down on the throne now. In the blink of an eye, the hall fell silent from the very intense battles from before. The bloody white tiger also stopped attacking, staring fixedly at the throne. The saint artifact returned to its size of a fist and flew over. It stopped above the white tiger's head and slowly rotated. Now that Yu had vanished from the hall, the saint artifact's target to protect switched to the white tiger. All of you go. Leave the bright moon divine hall. At this moment, an obscure voice sounded through the hall. With it, a white-clothed woman suddenly appeared on the empty throne. She was illusory and not tangible, though her beauty was on par with a goddess. Why, you're Fairy Haoyu. All the people changed in expression when they saw the illusory woman. Disbelief flooded their faces. The woman seemed exactly the same as the sculpture they had seen earlier in the divine hall. Fairy Haoyu sat on the throne in a leisurely manner. Her expression was cold, like an iceberg that would not melt even after several millennia. It made people feel like she was unapproachable, and she seemed to look down on everyone within the hall. Her cold eyes only stopped on the white tiger for a split second. Fairy Haoyu, why, you're actually still alive. Fairy Haoyu's actually still alive. All the saint rulers in the hall began to murmur. They became extremely emotional. Fairy Haoyu was a supreme expert several tens of thousand years ago. She was known as the strongest saint emperor, and the strength she possessed was at a terrifying level. Yet now, she, who was supposed to be dead, was actually still alive. It was a stirring and unexpected piece of news. Many saint rulers had already dropped to their knees within the hall. They bowed courteously to the woman. Some of them even cried out that they wanted to take them in as disciples. Fairy Haoyu furrowed her brows as a sliver of impatience appeared on her face. She coldly said, "All of you get out. From now on, the Divine Hall forbids the entry of all people." Fairy Haoyu waved her hand and a ball of powerful moonlight force began to radiate from the throne. It sent everyone there to the first floor. In the blink of an eye, the top floor of the Divine Hall became empty. Everyone was gone, and soon afterwards, Fairy Haoyu disappeared from the throne as well. Yu stood in confusion as she curiously looked around the completely sealed room. She mumbled, "Weird. How did I get here, and what is this place?" "Your name is Yu." Suddenly, a cold voice rang out from behind her. Yu jumped in fright since she was unprepared. Yu immediately turned around and saw an ethereal beauty seated on a piece of jade, staring back at her. Yu immediately became surprised when she saw the woman's appearance, because she was exactly the same as the sculpture of Fairy Haoyu. "Why, you're Fairy Haoyu." Yu stared at Fairy Haoyu in surprise as she uncontrollably cried out. "Correct. I am Fairy Haoyu." She was extremely nonchalant. She flicked her hand at the air gently and the space began to ripple violently. It changed rapidly as the formation space where all the Saint Kings were trapped gradually appeared. This was only an image within the formation space. It was taken by Fairy Haoyu through an ability. Jian Chen. Yu immediately cried out involuntarily the instant she saw Jian Chen. Worry filled her face. "So the person you care so much about is called Jian Chen. May I ask who he is to you?" Fairy Haoyu stared calmly at Yu. "Jian Chen is my fiancé." "Fairy Haoyu, I beg of you to let Jian Chen go," Yu pleaded as she looked at Jian Chen. She had originally come to gain control of the Divine Hall so she could save Jian Chen, but her intentions had vanished accordingly now that she had found out Fairy Haoyu was still alive. Yu had no interest in the Divine Hall. Her greatest wish right now was to save Jian Chen. "Jian Chen's actually your fiancé," Fairy Yu murmured softly as light flickered through her eyes. After a period of silent thought, she said to Yu, "If you want to save your fiancé, there is only one way. That is to take me as your master. Are you willing?" Chapter 1052, Yu takes a master. Yu became completely stunned when she heard that. She stared at Fairy Haoyu blankly as disbelief flooded her face. Yu had heard about the legends of Fairy Haoyu from other people long ago. Fairy Haoyu was a prodigy, an unprecedented genius at cultivation. It took her just a little more than 2,000 years to reach the peak of Saint Emperor, coming only an inch away from surpassing that. Even in ancient times, there was no one who could compare to her cultivation speed. After reaching the peak of Saint Emperor, she had even flown to the distant moon all by herself. She set foot on the unfamiliar territory that people rarely ever went to, collecting valuable resources to build her Divine Hall. Her abilities were so great and her powers were so outstanding that even among all the Saint Emperors, there was rarely anyone who could match up to her. Currently, the great Fairy Haoyu actually wanted to take her as a disciple. Great joy flooded her entire spirit in that instance, making it difficult for her to return to her senses in a short amount of time. Taking a Saint Emperor as a master was a glorious matter, something worthy of being proud. Even with the entire continent in perspective, this was something that many people would not even consider. Yu had never thought that she, someone who was far from being a prodigy, would actually be asked to become a disciple of a Saint Emperor. Fairy Haoyu remained calm throughout. She showed no emotions as she asked once more, "Yu, are you willing to take me as your master?" Yu finally calmed down. She forcefully suppressed her churning emotions and asked calmly, "Fairy Haoyu, I understand myself that my talent is nowhere near a prodigy's level, so may I ask why Fairy Haoyu has chosen me to become your disciple? Won't my future accomplishments sully your name?" "You are correct. Your talent is at most 1 in 10,000, nowhere close to a genius talent. However, do you know how wondrous the method I cultivate is? It was the cultivation method that my great father, the moon god, used several tens of thousand years of effort to create specifically for me. It takes from the fortunes of nature. It's so wondrous that even if it's cultivated by people with ordinary talent, they will have quite the future. Also, there's the Divine Hall that I worked so hard to create all those years ago. I've sealed moon essence into it. I only need to use a portion of it to modify your body using a secret technique and have you undergo a rebirth, so that your body becomes set for cultivation, Fairy Haoyu guaranteed. What? Your cultivation method was created by your father after several tens of thousand years? I've only heard that Saint Emperors have a lifespan of 10,000 years. Is your father a supreme expert who surpassed Saint Emperor? Yu stared at Fairy Haoyu in surprise. A sliver of disdain flashed through Fair Haoyu's eyes when she heard about surpassing a Saint Emperor. She said, the origin realm's nothing. If the origin energy in this world wasn't sealed on the distant edge of outer space, I would have reached the origin realm long ago. As for my father, you will understand after you become my disciple. Yu immediately dropped to her knees and said, I am indebted to Fairy Haoyu's kindness. I, Yu, am willing to become your disciple. Disciple greets master. Yu bowed her head 9 times to Fairy Haoyu. Fairy Haoyu finally showed a slight smile on her illusory face. She said, my obedient disciple, get up quickly. You are my first disciple. With that, an invisible force lifted Yu up. Afterward, Fairy Haoyu continued, the moon god's scepter in your hands was a scepter I made after collecting materials according to the design of my father's scepter. Now, your master no longer needs it. I've sealed a portion of moonlight force into the scepter, so carry it with you in the future. It can protect you. Yu examined the scepter. It was made out of some unknown crystal and was as light as a feather. She could not feel any weight at all. The entire scepter was clouded by a faint layer of moonlight force, shining with a hazy glow. Vaguely, she could see a simple pattern on the scepter. Master, disciple has some questions. Could everyone who obtained the scepter arrive here and be taken as a disciple of master? Yu asked. Fairy Haoyu proudly smiled and said, there's no one in the world who has the right to become my disciple, and I had no intentions of taking one before. When the divine hall suddenly appeared, I had my own intentions. The scepter is useless to those who would have gotten a hold of it. They can't take it out of the hall anyway, but I changed my mind later on due to some reasons, which is why I made an exception to take you as my disciple. Because of Jian Chen? Yu probed. She recognized the reason why Fairy Haoyu had taken her in as a disciple long ago. It was because of Jian Chen. Alright, don't ask anymore, my dear disciple. All you need to understand is that Master has no ill intentions toward you. Master's original disciple and only exists in the form of a soul now. This is why Master will be extremely limited in her abilities to assist you when you come across dangers in the future. However, once you cultivate my method, I will give you control of the Divine Hall. The Divine Hall is something I was proud of when I made it all those years ago, so it's extraordinarily tough. There's also layers upon layers of formations in the Divine Hall, so as long as you have it protecting you, even experts in the origin realm will be kept busy for a while. The name of the cultivation method is the Mirror of the Moon God. If it is practiced with a special constitution, the rate will be greatly increased. Allow Master to assist you in rebirthing with the moon essence sealed within the Divine Hall. I'll pass the cultivation method on to you after that. Then you can control the Divine Hall and save the person you want to save. Although Fairy Yu was in the form of a soul, she still possessed supreme control over the Divine Hall. With a single thought, extremely dense moon essence gathered from the surroundings, slowly approaching Yu in the form of the light of a rainbow. Afterward, all of it entered her body, improving her talent by modifying her constitution. As she watched Yu be coated by the thick layer of moon essence, Fairy Haoyu suddenly seemed to fall into a trance. She thought, Father, your daughter's not dead. Very soon, I'll be able to return to your side, and then I will tell you about Nan Potion's scheme. Nan Potion has wild ambitions. He wants to take your position as the leader of the Moon God Hall. Now that so many years have passed, I wonder if you're fine. Has the Moon God Hall fallen into Nan Potion's hands? As she thought, her illusory face suddenly became filled with deep worry. At the same moment, the huge formation still took up the same amount space on the first floor of the Divine Hall just like before, filling up a large portion of the hall where the sculpture was. A large group of people regretfully stood in the region close to where the formation lay. A few of them were even dejected, as if their souls had disappeared. These people had all been sent down from the top floor by the Divine Hall's power. Now, all of them understood that the Divine Hall was most likely taken by Yu, who had disappeared from the throne with the scepter in her hand, which was why all of them were filled with deep regret and dejection. Huang and the White Tiger stood together. The fist-sized saint artifact floated over the White Tiger's head as it slowly spun. Currently, both of them were covered in blood, in horrible shape. Their injuries were quite deep. I never thought that Fairy Hao Yu would still be alive. Yu's definitely been taken away by Fairy Hao Yu. She should be fine, right? Though what happens next isn't something we can control or interfere with, Huang said gruffly. He was rather helpless. The White Tiger remained as awe-inspiring as before, standing with its head up high. It stared fixedly at the formation space up ahead as worry filled its eyes. No one knew if Jian Chen could make it out of the formation space now that Yu's situation was unknown. Chapter 1053, New Master of the Divine Hall, 1, Sigh, I never thought that we'd expend so much energy while fighting over the scepter only for it to fall into the hands of a girl who's not even an Earth Saint Master. This is a huge joke. Among the crowd, a bloodied, pale-faced old man made a self-depreciating statement. He was filled with heavy dejection, and vaguely, there seemed to be slivers of envy. He was envious of Yu. There's no point in continuing to stay in this divine hall. Whatever. If we have to watch that girl come out beaming with smiles while we're filled with regret, we might as well leave now, just in case we feel even more miserable when that moment comes. The old man stared at the ceiling of the divine hall in a daze as he mumbled to himself. He turned around and left as he did all that, leaving the divine hall in dejection. Isn't this all because of the winged tiger god? If it weren't for the winged tiger god getting in our way, the scepter would have entered our hands long ago. How could it be taken by a weak girl? You still don't understand? The winged tiger god tried extremely hard to stop us for the lady to obtain the scepter. Sigh, too bad she's Jian Chen's fiancé. With Jian Chen as her great supporter, even the extremely prideful winged tiger god ended up helping her out. Sigh, my daughter's roughly the same as that girl. She's also an alluring beauty, a woman of rare appearance. If my daughter could foster a relationship with Jian Chen, how good would that be? A hubbub of discussion resonated in the surroundings. Many people regretfully sighed. They were unwilling to accept this outcome, because they had come across no other treasures other than the scepter on their journey within the Divine Hall. They had worked hard for so long, yet in the end, they had obtained nothing. How could the people be satisfied with nothing? Quite a few people looked at the winged tiger god with undisguised hatred and resentment. All of them were extremely confident in themselves and filled with confidence in their strength. All of them believed that if it were not for the winged tiger god, the scepter would have been theirs long ago. Although many people in the crowd held deep hatred for the winged tiger god, none of them dared to do anything to it. All of them had gained a deep understanding of the winged tiger god's supreme battle prowess. It had only been somewhat heavily injured when it was facing against many saint rulers and 3 saint-tier battle skills. Killing it would be even more difficult. None of them knew if the winged tiger god was hiding any other abilities or secret techniques. All the people within the Divine Hall were sent to the same place by the power of the Divine Hall, so in that instance, the number of people on the first floor suddenly exploded. It became densely packed, almost filling up all the remaining space of the Divine Hall. The people who were still in the mazes before and had yet to reach the final floor learned about what had happened. They were filled with despair and regret. They all left the Divine Hall in low spirits after a short while. People constantly left the Divine Hall, causing the number of people to rapidly fall. In the end, only around 100 people remained, including the winged tiger god and Huang. All of them stared at the formation where the Saint Kings were trapped in worry. The illusory Fairy Hao Yu had already left where she sat before in the sealed room. She left the piece of jade for Yu. Currently, Yu lay on the piece of jade and was enveloped by a thick layer of moon essence. With her eyes closed, the dense moonlight force around her constantly seeped into her body, rapidly improving her body. Fairy Haoyu stared at Yu in mixed emotions as the moon essence enveloped her. She thought, the mirror of the moon god was specifically created by my father for me. The cultivation method is extremely profound in that it takes from nature itself. My father once told me that I was the only person who could cultivate with it. Any other person who uses it will become eternally doomed. I wonder if passing this cultivation method onto Yu was the right decision. Though, father also once told me that the people who try to use this cultivation method will face the drawbacks once they break through the origin realm and attain godhood. Meanwhile, it will be extremely difficult for Yu to reach Saint Emperor within her life. Even with the support of heavenly resources, her limit will only be Saint King at most. If she cultivates the mirror of the moon god right now and has her body modified by the moon essence, she will be able to reach Saint Emperor in the very least. If origin energy was still present, she might even be able to reach the origin realm. She may never attain godhood from today on, but at least she can live much longer. In that case, I won't really be harming her. It had already been half a month since the Divine Hall had appeared, and it had become extremely crowded outside the Divine Hall. The air was filled with densely packed figures everywhere, ranging from Heaven's Saint Masters to Saint Kings. Several great elders had come from the Protector clans, and even the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, had personally come. The ancestors of many ancient clans had come as well, resulting in the gathering of many Saint Kings. All of them stared at the Divine Hall with furrowed brows. The people who had just left the Divine Hall brought out the latest news with them, allowing everyone to learn that Fairy Haoyu was still alive and that her figure remained in the Divine Hall. At the same time, they learned how an extremely weak woman had obtained the scepter and was sent to some unknown place by the throne of the Divine Hall. Chapter 1054, New Master of the Divine Hall, 2, What's happening? Why can't I feel the suction force? Has it stopped working on me after it's realized that it can't suck away my chaotic force? Or has something else happened in the Divine Hall? Jian Chen thought. So many days have already passed. I wonder how Yu and the others are right now. Have they successfully gained control over the Divine Hall? At the same time, a woman in blue robes currently sat within a sealed room as she cultivated 1,000 meters below the surface of the earth at the Huanggu clan. She was extremely pretty, possessing beauty that could outshine the moon and few could rival. She could enchant countless men. A faint layer of water blue light shone in the woman's surroundings as extremely pure. Water attributed Saint Force pulsed from her body. It caused the air in the room to become moist, while droplets of water hung from the surrounding walls. The woman was Huang, currently trapped here by the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and forced to cultivate the scripture of the aquatic sunflower. She had already been trapped here for many years. During that time, she had always been imprisoned in that room, never to be able to leave it. She was completely cut off from the world, only able to cultivate and then cultivate some more. She possessed the water spirit's body, while the scripture of the aquatic sunflower was a high-tiered cultivation method extremely suitable for people with Saint Force of the water attribute. As a result, the rate at which her strength increased could be described as extremely great during the years where she worked hard in the method, reaching the 6th cycle of Heaven's Saint Master, now only an inch away from Saint Ruler. Although her speed was far from Jian Chen or Tai Ta's, it was equivalent to a prodigy that would only appear once every 10,000 years on the Tianyuan continent. After several years, Huang's temperament had undergone a great change from before as well. The most evident part was that her pride and arrogance from before were now gone. She was becoming stronger-willed, even more mature, and silent. Suddenly, the water blue light around Huang vanished. She slowly opened her eyes and within them hid a sliver of deep hatred. The scripture of the aquatic sunflower really is wondrous. After these years of cultivating with it, most of the poison left behind by that old bastard has been purged. There's only a small residue left, which can't affect me. If I continue to work hard on cultivation, I'll immediately break through that old bastard's barrier once I reach Saint Ruler. I'll charge out and fight him to death. Afterward, the clan should hear about the news very soon, so they'll definitely come help save great-grandfather. Huang calculated inside as determination flooded her face. After being trapped for so many years, she had seen through and understood a lot of things. She knew that the Huanggu clan wanted something from her since they were holding Huang Tianba as hostage, imprisoning her there and forcing her to cultivate. As a result, she had already made up her mind about the fact that she would die. The only reason why she focused on cultivation now was so that she could burst out of the room and spread the news, so that her great-grandfather could be saved. Suddenly, a muffled rumble rang out. The door slowly opened and a simply dressed old man slowly walked in. He was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. "My dear Luan, why haven't you been cultivating? You must work hard on cultivation and reach Saint Ruler as soon as possible. Once you reach Saint Ruler, I'll let your great-grandfather go." The ancestor smiled at Huang. However, it seemed rather sinister in the dimly lit room. "How is my great-grandfather right now?" Huang suppressed her intense hatred inside and asked in a composed fashion. She was not an opponent of the ancestor right now. "Don't worry. Your great-grandfather is fantastic right now. I haven't mistreated him one bit at all." The Huanggu clan ancestor smiled as he observed Huang. He sighed inside. The water spirit's body sure can cultivate at an unbelievable speed once it finds a suitable cultivation method. "I never thought that this girl would reach 6th cycle heaven Saint Master so soon." The ancestor slowly made his way to Huang's side. He bit his index finger and squeezed out a droplet of blood. It hung in the air, and then he used it to draw an image with his index finger. "What are you trying to do?" Huang's face changed slightly when she saw what the old man was doing. She felt an ill omen, and immediately began to back off cautiously. A while later, a complicated and indecipherable inscription was drawn by the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. It glowed with a demonic red light and seemed to be filled with malevolence. The old man looked at Huang and sniggered. "My dear disciple, don't worry. Your master's beloved disciple after all. Master would never harm you. Come to your master's side." The old man slowly drew closer and closer to Huang. The room was not big at all, so Huang hit a wall very soon. Although the door was wide open, a barrier was present outside, so she could not flee at all. Even though she did not have an escape route, she did not show any fear at all. She knew that any attempt of resistance against the Huanggu clan ancestor, who had reached Saint Ruler many years ago, was futile. After some thought, she closed her eyes and began to silently accept this situation. The old man arrived before Huang and sinisterly smiled. He slowly guided the inscription at the tip of his finger to the region between Huang's eyebrows. As soon as the blood-red imprint came in contact with her skin, it disappeared into her head. Huang suddenly began to show signs of pain, and she moaned in uncontrollable agony. She felt her head ache with extreme pain, as if her soul was being ripped apart. The old man's smile became even more sinister after the formation had successfully entered Huang's head. A long while later, the pain in her head finally began to slowly recede. She stared at the old man with a rather pale face and coldly asked, "What was that before? What did you do to me?" "This is called the blood servant's imprint. I learned it recently from an ancient scripture. The blood servant's imprint won't cause you any harm. All it does is connect our fate. If I die, you die too," the ancestor slowly explained as he sighed a breath of relief inside. "Now it'll be easy. I've planted the imprint in the girl, so I'll be safe even if Jian Chen or the 10 protector clans come knocking on the door. I hope this girl can reach Saint Ruler a little after. Once she reaches Saint Ruler, the potential of the water spirit's body will be completely activated as well. At that time, if I absorb all her hidden potential and strength as a human cauldron, I'll reach Saint King immediately. I might even be able to reach Saint Emperor in the future." Chapter 1055, New Master of the Divine Hall, 3. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan left, and the heavy door slowly slammed shut. Only Huang was left in the dim room. Huang did not show any panic or fear even though she was now bound by the blood servant's imprint. She was extremely calm. She had already accepted her death long ago, so she did not care at all that her life was in someone else's hands. Huang returned to the center of the room and sat down. She was dazed as memories filled her eyes. She mumbled, "Jian Shen, I wonder where you are. How have you been in these years? Have you ever thought about me or missed me?" "Jian Shen, every moment when we were together as well as every little matter that occurred between us will be deeply embedded in my head. I will never forget you. All that can be blamed is fate. I cannot be with you forever. In the future, we may never meet again. I never thought that my last time seeing you was when we separated all those years ago." Huang suddenly became sorrowful. 2 clear streaks of tears flowed uncontrollably down her cheeks. They landed on the cold floor and splashed apart. Deep sorrow filled the room. The fallen tears were like Huang's heart, completely shattered and split into countless pieces. In the blink of an eye, another half a month passed. All the Saint Kings from the Protector clans and ancient clans, as well as the Saint Rulers, stood scattered in the air around the Divine Hall. During that half a month, no one had left. They remained where they were, while the people of the Protector clans and Mercenary City all tried to think of ways to save their people trapped inside. The remaining Saint Rulers all remained there to watch it all unfold and also to find out who the Divine Hall would belong to in the end. During that time, the people from the Protector clans used countless methods and had attempted countless times, but it all resulted in failure. The Divine Hall's toughness was incomparable to other ordinary Divine Halls. They could not open the Divine Hall even when all of them tried as hard as they could. They even struggled to leave a mark on it. So many days have passed already and they still haven't come out. There's no news of you either. I wonder what the situation is like inside. If it keeps dragging out, it will be detrimental to the people trapped inside," growled a great elder from the Shinshao sect. He was extremely stern. "We've called from outside for so many days, and even attacked the Divine Hall, but the Divine Hall does not respond at all. All it does is float here and absorb moonlight force. I think Fairy Hao Yu's dead. If this continues, the people inside will definitely face life-threatening danger. This is why I would say that why don't we, the 10 clans, use our clan treasures, the Emperor armaments, and smash through the entrance of the Divine Hall in one stroke?" A burly, middle-aged man in black robes also spoke his mind. He was a great elder from the Yangji sect. All the great elders of the Protector clans changed slightly in expression when they heard about using the Emperor armaments. They became hesitant. The Emperor armaments of the Protector clans were not any old Emperor armament. They were weapons formed and strengthened from the fusion of dozens or even 100 Emperor armaments through a secret technique over countless years. It combined all their power, so it possessed extremely great might. Using it would result in extremely great backlash to all of them, and they would all be injured. The Saint Kings trapped within the formation space of the Divine Hall had all lost their powers and collapsed on the ground, including He Yu and Hong Lian. Only Jian Shen was perfectly fine. Many of them were ashen as despair filled their hearts. They had lost all hope, as if they had already been prepared to be trapped there for all their lives. At this moment, the formation space suddenly began to violently shake. The surrounding landscape began to quickly change and distort, gradually blurring. The change in the formation space alerted all the powerless Saint Kings. All of them immediately struggled to sit up, staring at the space in suspicion and surprise. What's happening? Has the formation begun to change, turning into a true killing formation to slaughter all of us here? A Saint King questioned weakly. His complexion was horrible. The faces of all the other people immediately sank when they heard that. Their complexions also became horrible, but they all continued to stare fixedly at the changing landscape. Very soon, the wasteland conjured by the formation vanished. It became rather dark for everyone, and when they could see their surroundings once more, they discovered that they had actually returned to the Divine Hall where the sculpture of Fairy Hao Yu stood nearby. The formations vanished. The formations vanished. We've returned to where we were before. The formation must have run out of energy and dispersed. We're finally free. We've finally broken out of the damned formation space. Everyone became extremely emotional when they discovered that they had been freed. All of them uncontrollably cried out with joy. The Saint Kings who had already accepted their fate became even more emotional, becoming speechless. I will give you 5 seconds. Leave the divine hall immediately, or you won't be able to leave ever again. At this moment, a cold female's voice rang out. Fairy Haoyu's illusionary form currently floated above the sculpture in the center of the room. Her white clothes were like snow, and she seemed otherworldly, having transcended from mortal affairs. She seemed like a goddess. It's Fairy Haoyu. All the Saint Kings immediately cried out when they saw her. They became filled with disbelief. No, she's a soul. It's Fairy Haoyu's soul. Her soul is actually still alive. The Saint Kings possessed great senses, much greater senses than Saint rulers. They could tell that it was Fairy Haoyu's soul with a single glance, but even though that was the case, it still shocked them all. Saint Emperors had a lifespace of 10,000 years. Once that time was up, their bodies would begin to fall apart and their souls would disperse. It was impossible for them to live much longer after those 10,000 years, yet Fairy Haoyu was someone who had lived several tens of thousand years ago, and her soul actually still remained. It was unheard of to them. 2 seconds have passed, you have 3 left, Fairy Haoyu said as she stared coldly at the Saint Kings. All of the people no longer bothered with her matters with that. They did not doubt her abilities to trap them for all of eternity. After all, the formation just before was more than enough evidence. They immediately charged out as fast as they could, but as they had all lost their powers, they could not fly. They ran like ordinary people. Chapter 1056. Yue Emerges. Jian Chen revealed a sliver of hesitation as he watched all the Saint Kings hurriedly run out. He did not leave immediately, and he looked around instead. He found that the entire place was rather empty and that there was no other people present other than those who had been trapped in the formation. Esteemed Fairy Haoyu, may I inquire about the situation for the other people who entered the Divine Hall? Jian Chen clasped his hands at Fairy Haoyu's soul. Currently, the person he worried most for was Yu. Fairy Haoyu's gaze landed on Jian Chen and an undetectable sliver of surprise appeared in her cold eyes. However, she spoke just as coldly as before, they've all left here. Jian Chen finally felt relieved when he heard that. Without saying anything more, he left with He Yu and Hong Lian. Jian Chen gave up on the idea of taking the Divine Hall since Fairy Haoyu was still alive. She had been reduced to only a soul now, but Jian Chen dared not underestimate her. Jian Chen, He Yu, and Hong Lian left with Kara Lot and Kazda Jinxiong. The great elder from the Changyang clan had left long ago. With everyone's departure, the Divine Hall recovered its peace from before. Only Fairy Haoyu's soul remained above the sculpture in the slightly dim room. I really do want to know where they got their armor and weapon with origin energy, but if I ask them now, it's unlikely that they will tell me. They might even weave some lies to trick me. Seeing how their relationship with Jian Chen is decent, I definitely will come in contact with them quite often in the future. At that time, I can just ask my dear disciple, Yu, about the origin energy. It'll definitely be much easier. So many years have passed anyway. I wouldn't mind waiting a few more days at all. Jian Chen definitely cultivates chaotic force. He walks a cultivation path that is out of the ordinary. He will not need origin energy to increase his strength at all, so I really do hope he reaches the origin realm quickly. That way, I can return home through him. I hope nothing happens to the Moon God Hall. Father, you have to wait until your daughter returns and then ruins Nan Potion's scheme. Outside the Divine Hall, the great elders from the Protector clans continued to waver over to use the Emperor armaments or not. The door of the Divine Hall suddenly swung open at that moment, and the Saint Kings that had been trapped in the formation stood at the doorway. All of them excitedly looked at the outside world, as if they had just survived a disaster. They've come out. The people from the Protector clans and a few ancient clans all became excited as well. They all flew toward the Divine Hall, taking back the Saint Kings who had lost their powers. Rui Jin, Xia Wang, and the Winged Tiger God also arrived before the main entrance. When they saw how He Yu and Hong Lian had both lost all their power, Rui Jin's face immediately changed. I never thought that your strengths would fall to such a level. Looks like the danger of the Divine Hall far exceeded anything I expected. You two better return to the artifact space first and recover. Afterward, He Yu and Hong Lian both entered the artifact space to recover their depleted energy. Brother Jianchen, my energy is depleted, so it's just too inconvenient for me to return. I was wondering if I could spend a few days in the artifact space to recover, Carolot said to Jianchen. Of course. Jianchen agreed without any hesitation. He knew quite well that the Kara clan had many enemies. It would be difficult to even run away if Carolot faced them in his current situation. Kazda Jianxiong also requested out of his own accord to enter the artifact space to recover his strength after Carolot had been taken away. In the end, he was sent into the artifact space as well. Kazda Jianxiong was the same as Carolot. They had both lost their powers and dared not to return hastily. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao supported the Great Elder who had entered with them and arrived before Jianchen. He asked for Jianchen's well-being out of concern before hurriedly leaving with the Great Elder. A few other saint rulers from the ancient clans all went up to support their ancestors, leaving the Divine Hall as well. A portion of them immediately began to return to their clans, while others stayed behind. They wanted to see who the Divine Hall would belong to in the end. Among the 10 protector clans, the Yuan sect, the Changyang clan, and the Pure Heart Pavilion chose to leave. The 7 other protector clans chose to stay behind, while the people from Mercenary City stayed behind as well. Many of them still cared about the Divine Hall very much. Jianchen had already dismissed all his thoughts regarding the Divine Hall. He said to Roy Jean, "Is Yu fine, Senior Roy Jean?" Roy Jean shook his head in response. Yu still hasn't come out." "What? Yu hasn't left the Divine Hall?" Jianchen became surprised with that and immediately began to worry. A powerful ripple of energy appeared from behind him at this moment. He immediately turned around to look when he sensed the abnormality. He found that the Divine Hall had stopped absorbing moonlight force and was rapidly shrinking, becoming the size of a fist in just a few mere seconds. It was becoming a small, white but exquisitely crafted Divine Hall. Without the obstruction of the Divine Hall, a purple-dressed, elegant woman appeared before everyone. Yue. Jianchen could not help but call out in joy when he saw the person, as it was Yu. Yu gestured with her hand, and the Divine Hall immediately flew obediently into her hand. It enveloped her entire body with hazy moonlight force, allowing her to become resistant to the unique environment of outer space. Yu saw Jianchen, and her face immediately stirred. "Jianchen, you've finally returned safely. I haven't let you down. I've successfully gained control of the Divine Hall and saved you from it." Jianchen took a single step and appeared beside her, directly traversing several hundred meters. He felt pleasantly surprised as he stared at the bright moon Divine Hall in her hand and asked in disbelief, "Yue, what did you just say? You've successfully gained control of the Divine Hall?" Yu immediately felt pleased with herself when she saw Jianchen's surprise. She nodded firmly. "Then Fairy Hao Yu," Jianchen paused. He felt confused inside. Fairy Hao Yu was clearly still alive, so how did the Divine Hall end up in someone else's hands? "Jianchen, Fairy Hao Yu has accepted me as her disciple. She's my master now," Yu said rather proudly. She smiled sweetly as she was extremely happy. Jianchen was stunned with that, but he soon became overjoyed as well. It was even rarer than the Divine Hall for Yu to become a disciple of Fairy Hao Yu. The surrounding saint rulers and saint kings heard their conversation clearly. When they learned that Yu had indeed obtained the Divine Hall and even become a disciple of Fairy Hao Yu, the saint rulers who had fought over the scepter were greatly affected, deepening the regret and unwillingness within them. The saint kings looked at Yu with deep envy, coupled with a sliver of extremely well and deeply hidden jealousy. However, they all knew about the relationship between Yu and Jianchen, which is why they dared not let the thought of taking it cross their minds before Jianchen. On the other hand, the people of the protector clans seemed very calm. Divine halls may be extremely precious to ancient clans, but they seemed common and ordinary to the ancient protector clans. Even if the amount of divine halls that were inherited from their predecessors was ignored, just the quantity that they obtained from other sources was plentiful. What truly made the Protector clans drool over was Fairy Hao Yu's cultivation method. Yu Yu's talent for cultivation also underwent an overwhelming change under the transformation of Moonlight Essence. She was enough to be called a great genius now. Her strength had passed through Great Saint Master and Earth Saint Master, reaching Heaven Saint Master. Chapter 1057. Infant Yu Yu roughly explained her encounter in the Divine Hall to Jian Chen, so Jian Chen gained an understanding as well. He felt happy for Yu Yu's fortuitous encounter. Yu Yu was only a Heaven Saint Master now, but there were extremely few people who could become Heaven Saint Masters at her age, even with the entire Tianyuan continent in perspective. Yu Yu's cultivation talent had also undergone an overwhelming change, so her speed at cultivation greatly increased. Many of the experts from ancient and hermit clans who stayed behind went up to the two of them to congratulate them. They smiled amicably and congratulations constantly rang out. Their attempts to get on Jian Chen's good side were obvious, and even two experts from Protector clans had gone up to congratulate them, wanting to pull Jian Chen to their side vaguely enough. Although the 10 Protector clans were envious of the winged tiger god that followed Jian Chen and wanted to take it for themselves, Jian Chen was no longer the weakling from before. He was strong enough where even they themselves needed to be wary and powerful enough where they dared not provoke him easily. The winged tiger god following Jian Chen had already become a matter set in stone, so they obviously had no wish of lingering on Jian Chen's bad side. Jian Chen was rather mannerly. He would thank the people who came up to congratulate him politely regardless of actually being acquaintances. Yu Yu, on the other hand, was once a princess, so she behaved in a very refined manner as well. She thanked them with a faint smile. Now that the Bright Moon Divine Hall had a master, the disruptions caused by the Divine Hall finally came to an end. All the experts gathered in outer space dispersed with mixed emotions. Tian Jian spoke a few words to Jian Chen out of courtesy before leaving immediately. Soon after that, only Jian Chen's group remained in the same place. Yue, let's go back first, Jian Chen said to Yu Yu, before extending his hand around Yu Yu's thin waist. The White Tiger and Xia Wang had already entered the artifact space to heal. Yu Yu did not stop Jian Chen. She smiled happily as she was embraced around the waist, leaning gently on Jian Chen's shoulder. The Divine Hall had already disappeared silently into her hand. Jian Chen left outer space with Yu Yu and Rui Jin, returning to the Tianyuan continent. They directly descended to the air above Fragrance River. Although over a month had passed since the Divine Hall had appeared, its effects still lingered on all the people. Many people had stayed by the river and some people had even set up tents on the two riverbanks. They stared at the sky days on end, wanting to know who the Divine Hall ended up with in the end. Jian Chen did not tarry when he returned to the City of God. He found Quan Yukai and Yang Ling, bidding farewell after just a short conversation. He left with Yang Ling. Hong Lian and He Yu remained in the artifact space to recover their strength, so only Rui Jin accompanied them on the way back. He ripped open a space gate, going back to the Changyang clan in Lore City. Tsar Vamos stood on the roof of the Tsar family estate, staring deeply in the direction where Jian Chen had disappeared off to. A lot of the Kara clan and Kazda Jinxiong of the Kazda clan have both lost all their strength. They're extremely weak, and without the two of them, the Kara clan and Kazda clan are extremely fragile. How good of an opportunity, too bad Kaiyun. Sigh, I sure do regret the past, I sure do regret the past. Tsar Vamos was filled with regret. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu currently sat on a huge rock on the mountain of the distant Three Saint Island. They faced the vast ocean where the sea blended with the sky, quietly playing their zither. Their abilities at the zither were nowhere near the heavenly enchantress, but they possessed an extremely great achievement nonetheless. Not only were their zither tunes graceful and able to calm people, they also possessed a natural beauty. A white-robed woman sat behind the two of them. She was the young lady of the Tianqin clan, Qin Qin. She was not playing the zither. Instead, she sat on the cliff with her eyes closed, carefully listening to the music played by Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Her zither, modeled from the zither of the demonic cry, was placed firmly on her legs. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu finally stopped playing a long while later. They slowly put their zither away and stood up, calmly staring at Qin Qin. A while later, Xiao Yu said, Junior Qin Qin, have you sensed the existence of the heavenly melody? Qin Qin slowly opened her eyes and a sliver of confusion flashed through. She shook her head, Seniors, I've heard you mention this heavenly melody many times, but just what is it? We can't explain it clearly either, because it was what our master told us back then. All we know is that it's a feeling. It's an odd feeling, a feeling of tone. Only by sensing the heavenly melody can you be considered to have grasped the basics of the way of the zither, said Xiao Yu as reminiscence appeared in her eyes. Looks like our comprehension of the way of the zither is not enough. We don't have the power to let Junior sense the heavenly melody just by ourselves. Maybe it'll only work if Master personally plays. It's a pity that Master's been in seclusion for many years already. I wonder when she'll come out, Xiao Qian said rather regretfully. Suddenly, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's eyes froze. They suddenly turned their heads to look into the distance, where the sky and sea joined as one. A streak of violet light rapidly enlarged, approaching Three Saint Island at an unbelievable speed. It was still at the horizon, yet it had arrived on the island a second later. It was only 10 meters away from Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu now. Its speed was shocking. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu grew solemn. They immediately became cautious when such a great expert suddenly visited the island, but they saw who the violet figure was very soon. They stared blankly as they became extremely shocked, calling out in unison, Master. The violet figure was the mistress of the island, the heavenly enchantress. In violet robes, the heavenly enchantress stood honorably and coldly. She stood with her back from Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu as her black hair fell naturally from her shoulders like a fountain. Master, it's you. Weren't you in seclusion? Why have you suddenly appeared outside? Xiao Qian was filled with shock. She had never sensed the heavenly enchantress leave in the past few years, always believing that she remained in seclusion. In my seclusion, I just happened to go out for a journey. I've only just returned. Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, has anything happened on Three Saint Island during these recent years? The heavenly enchantress ignored the question and replied icily. Her voice was emotionless. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately understood the heavenly enchantress' explanation. Xiao Yu replied, Master, all because of you, Three Saint Island has remained as peaceful as before. Nothing big has happened. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu walked toward the heavenly enchantress happily as they spoke. Although they were disciples of the heavenly enchantress on the surface, they were actually more like sisters. When Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu arrived by her side, they discovered that she was currently carrying an infant wrapped in a cotton cloth. They immediately became astonished. Master, whose child is this? Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu said together. They immediately leaned over, curiously staring at the infant. A sliver of mixed emotions appeared in the heavenly enchantress' eyes. She lowered her head to look at the sleeping infant and said, There was war in a small kingdom on the continent. The child was lying among mountains of corpses and pools of blood. His parents both passed away, so I took pity on him and brought him back. Chapter 1058, Xiao Bao, Oh, Master, this child is so pitiful. He's lost his parents soon after being born. That's just too pitiful. The kind Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately became deeply sympathetic when they learned about the miserable life of the infant. Their gazes toward the child also underwent changes, becoming filled with love. Master, let's let this pitiful child live on Three Saint Island in the future. Xiao Qian touched the child's cheek with a jade-like finger as she pleaded. Yeah, Master, let's just let the child stay with us on Three Saint Mountain. The mountain's this big and there's only the four of us. An additional person would bring an additional portion of liveliness, Xiao Yu also insisted. She liked the chubby, white infant in the heavenly enchantress' arms very much and felt even more sympathetic. The heavenly enchantress had already removed her veil, revealing her supreme beauty. She looked at the infant with mixed emotions and gently sighed, All right then. Since you all like this child so much, let's let him live on Three Saint Island. Yes, fantastic. There'll be one extra person on 3 Saint Mountain in the future. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu immediately cried out. They were like little girls as they behaved in such a lively manner. Master, the child still doesn't have a name. Why not give him a name? Xiao Yu suggested. Oh my, let me do that then. I'm best at giving names to children. Xiao Qian excitedly took up the right to name the child. After some thought, she said, Master, looking at how cute the child is, why not call him Xiao Bao? Xiao Bao, that name sounds pretty good. It sounds quite cute, Xiao Yu said after some thought as well. The heavenly enchantress hesitated slightly before faintly nodding in the end. All right then. This child will be called Xiao Bao in the future. Master, leave Xiao Bao to the 2 of us. We will be responsible for looking after him in the future, Xiao Yu giggled, before extending her hands to carry Xiao Bao. No need, the heavenly enchantress appeared silently 10 meters away, gradually moving further away with Xiao Bao. She said, I'll look after Xiao Bao. Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, immediately go down the mountain to find some high-quality milk. You 2 will be responsible for Xiao Bao's food in the future. Yes, Master. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu replied in unison, though they seemed to be dejected. Qin, you should rest for a few days. I will play the zither for you in 3 days so that you can comprehend the heavenly melody, the heavenly enchantress softly said, before completely disappearing. The heavenly enchantress sat dazed on a big rock within a secret room with Xiao Bao in her arms. Her expression was extremely complicated with some distress mixed in. Xiao Bao seemed to sense the heavenly enchantress' distress and began to make sounds. He stared at the heavenly enchantress with his large, pure eyes out of curiosity as he unconsciously moved his arm. The heavenly enchantress looked at Xiao Bao and secretly sighed inside. She said, I was pregnant for 10 whole years to give birth to Xiao Bao. Meanwhile, my strength has skyrocketed at an unbelievable rate during my pregnancy, reaching the current level with the addition of the dragon's saliva. Xiao Bao, are you my blessing or curse? From then on, one more person joined 3 Saint Island. That person was a male infant, Xiao Bao. The Changyang clan in Lore City was currently in joy. Jian Chen's return immediately caused it to become bustling. In the present day, Jian Chen's status in the clan was unrivaled. He was the glory of the clan, the pride of the clan. He earned the respect of everyone. All of the elderly members of the clan immediately went up to personally receive him when he returned. Their gazes toward him were filled with deep pride and admiration. These older members were all part of the upper echelon. Although they were not powerful, mostly Earth Saint Masters, they were Jian Chen's great-grandfathers if seniority was considered. In a corner of the clan, Jian Chen's second brother, Changyang, watched on with mixed emotions as everyone seemed to parade into the conference hall with Jian Chen. He was strewn between emotions and could not help but think back to every single moment he had been in contact with Jian Chen when he was young. He could still clearly remember that his youngest brother's status was nowhere near his when he was labeled as a cripple who could not use Saint Force, yet now, the cripple had become a powerful figure that could shake up the continent with a twitch of his feet. On the other hand, even after expending a large quantity of the clan's monster cores, Changyang was still stuck at Great Saint Master. He had not even reached Earth Saint Master. Big brothers become a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans, while sisters become the saintess of some unknown ice god hall. Youngest brothers has become a shocking expert of the continent. He's now a Saint King. Now there's only me, Changyang, without any proud achievements. I haven't even reached Earth Saint Master. Am I useless? Changyang laughed at himself and became rather dejected. Of the 4 sons and daughters of the current patriarch, Changyang, 3 of them had already become famed figures. There was only him who remained relatively unknown even today, which greatly affected him. Jian Chen casually conversed with the seniors of his clan, before returning to his own room. Due to Jian Chen's unique status, he also received special treatment from the clan. His luxurious, palace-like residence from before had been rebuilt once more. Not only was it larger, it was even more grand and majestic. It could rival the royal palaces of kings. Jian Chen's palace-like residence had already become the symbol of the Changyang clan. It took up an entire third of the estate. The great tower created by Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun had been demolished long ago. Jian Chen felt rather helpless knowing the clan rebuilt his residence. He really did not have any demand for the reconstruction of his residence. He had even learned from his mother that the reconstruction was actually suggested by the ancestor of the clan, Changyang Zhu Yunkong. He had even obtained the agreement of everyone, including Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun. On that night, Jian Chen gathered in the residence with Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, Seniorin, Yunzheng, Yang Ling, and the others. They drank together and talked about everything. Laughter echoed out constantly. Jian Chen, I've already made up my mind. Once you leave the Changyang clan, Wang Yifeng, Seniorin, Yunzheng, and I will go out to train. We'll roam the Tianyuan continent properly. Locking ourselves up and cultivating every day is like shutting ourselves from the world. It's not very helpful at all, Little Fatty drunkenly said. His resolute face had already become bright red from drinking. Jian Chen secretly nodded to that. Although Little Fatty's talent was impressive, his age was still a thing after all. He lacked legitimate experience, so roaming the Tianyuan continent would indeed be extremely beneficial to him. De Gufeng's currently at Mercenary City, taking up the position as disciplinary elder. He's responsible for punishing the mercenaries that have done wrong. Ever since sister-in-law Yu Yu's left with you, the management of Flame City has all fallen to Bai Lian. She's been managing the city in an orderly manner and has also raised many members of the upper echelon for management as well. Currently, the city is growing with each coming day. Together with your name, Jian Chen, many saint rulers have already been drawn over. Your great-grandfather Bai Hai's also gone with your sister Bai Lian to the city, protecting her as he watches over her cultivation. At the table, Jian Chen gained some understanding of Flame City's situation from his dear friends. He both loved and felt pity for his sister Bai Lian. He knew it had been difficult for her over the years. She must have spent quite the effort for Flame City. Chapter 1059, Disturbance at Flame City. Deep into the night, Jian Chen's lively residence finally quietened down. Little Fatty and everyone else left, and they returned to their own residences to rest. Only Jian Chen remained, with a few female servants who were cleaning up the table. Jian Chen walked outside before he gently leaped onto the roof. He laid down and stared at the pitch-black sky. His deep eyes seemed to pierce the space, as he looked at the silver-white bright moon divine hall in the distant outer space. Yu Yu was not at the Changyang clan. Soon after she returned with him, she entered the divine hall. Then, she went to outer space to absorb the essence of the moon to cultivate. After she accepted Fairy Hao Yu as her master, Yu Yu became extremely enthusiastic toward cultivation. She worked even harder and even more arduously. She only wanted to increase her strength as much as possible, so she could do some things for Jian Chen and share his burden. Jian Chen laid on the roof and zoned out, as he stared at the night sky. He became slightly confused as he murmured, "Why did Fairy Hao Yu take Yu Yu as a disciple? Yu Yu's talent is good, but that's only with a small kingdom like Jessen in perspective. It's nothing if you look at the entire continent. There are countless prodigious females on the continent, and their talent is far greater than Yu Yu's. So, why didn't Fairy Hao Yu take someone else?" In that moment of peace, Jian Chen began to think of many things. He felt most suspicious about Fairy Hao Yu accepting Yu Yu as her disciple. "I don't think this is as simple as it seems. Fairy Hao Yu probably has some other intentions," murmured Jian Chen as he pondered. Suddenly, Jian Chen's gaze froze. He immediately stopped talking to himself, as he saw a black figure leap up to the roof. The figure produced gentle sounds as they stepped on the tiles, slowly making their way toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen did not get up, lying on the roof as before. He cushioned his head with his arms, as he continued to stare at the night sky. The black figure arrived beside him. Then, they laid down just like Jian Chen. His movements caused the tiles to creak. He said, "Brother, it's so late. Why haven't you gone to sleep?" Jian Chen turned around and looked at the figure. He smiled, "Brother, doesn't that apply to you as well? And to me, sleeping nowadays is basically wasting time. Sigh, you're right. You've already become a Saint King now. You're a peak-level expert even with the whole continent in perspective. You indeed don't need sleep to recover at your level of strength, Changyang sighed gently. A faint sorrow filled his face. Brother, have you been well these days? Jian asked. Although Changyang had once gone against him in everything he did, that happened when they were young. Jian stopped bothering about it long ago, treating it as the arguments between kids. Sigh, you, big brother and sister have all become great, famed people, either a supreme expert or a prodigy peak-level sex heavily favor. Only I remain unknown, a nobody. I'm still stuck at being a great Saint Master even until now, and I don't even know when I can reach Earth Saint Master. Do you think I've been well these years? Changyang sighed. He was gloomy. Jian remained silent. It was true that Changyang's talent was not really extraordinary. Even with the support of a great clan, he remained at Great Saint Master and improved at a rather slow rate. Changyang suddenly sat up and wishfully looked at Jian. He said, Brother, you're already a supreme figure of the continent now. I know you have extremely great abilities, so can you help me? I don't want to lie in waste anymore. I don't want to become an embarrassment to big brother, sister, and you, pleaded Changyang. It was very courageous of him to say such things. Jian slowly sat up. Brother, I still have some heavenly resources on me. When I go to Flame City tomorrow morning, I'll get the alchemist there to refine the resources into pills. It can modify your constitution. However, hard work is what truly determines your accomplishments, even though these items can improve your constitution. Brother, thank you. I will definitely work hard on cultivation in the future. Emotions began to overwhelm Changyang. He seemed to see a sliver of light in the darkness before him and hope for the future. On the next day, Jian left Yangling at the clan, before going to Flame City with Roy Jin. Flame City was even busier than before. Mercenaries flowed unendingly in and out of the city gates, along with many merchants who had come to hire them. The Flame Mercenaries had experienced a huge setback and almost collapsed, but Jian was just too famous. Coupled with his position as captain, the mercenaries regrouped at an astonishing rate. Not only did they recover their peak strength in less than a month, but they also became even stronger than before. There were even several saint rulers who came to join them. The Flame Mercenaries had already exceeded many hermit clans in strength now. They were no weaker than ancient clans with Jian in consideration, as he had killed Saint Kings before. They became one of the few great mercenary groups and their names shook the continent. The banners of the mercenaries had almost become a life-saving charm. Wherever the banners passed by, no one dared to behave in an offensive manner. This included bandits and the people from a few large clans. They all would give way on their one accord in a courteous fashion. As a result, all the escorting missions that people of the Flame Mercenaries undertook proceeded smoothly. Blood would only be drawn when they came across a few ignorant magical beasts. More and more merchants became willing to recruit the Flame Mercenaries as a result. Jian levitated 1,000 meters in the air, as he stared down at the bustling city with a joyous smile. However, his eyes suddenly froze when he swept past the very center of the city, and his complexion became rather horrible. A 300-meter-tall stone statue stood there. It gazed into the distance like a ruler, lording over the world in an impressive manner. It was a sculpture of Jian that was carved in a lifelike fashion. It seemed just like a real person. With a darkened complexion, Jian ran through the air and arrived above the stone statue with just a few flashes. He directly struck it with his palm and the entire statue shattered with a violent boom. It drifted down in the form of dust. He had personally destroyed a statue of himself. The statue was irreplaceable in the city. This was because it depicted a legend, an epic of the continent. At the same time, it depicted a supreme Saint King, who was the spiritual leader of the Flame Mercenaries. It was Jian. The destruction of the statue immediately raised the attention of the people nearby. All of them began to seethe as soon as they witnessed the destruction of the statue of the captain they admired and worshipped the most. Killing intent and rage immediately began to surge within them, burning like roaring flames. The statue of the captain has been destroyed. Someone has destroyed the captain's statue. Which bastard did this? I'll personally carve you up for destroying the statue of our captain. How dare they destroy the statue of our captain? I'll chop whoever did it into 1,000,000 pieces. The eyes of each and every person became bloodshot, as they gnashed their teeth. Intense rage began to burn within their eyes. The destruction of Jian Chen's statue was like the murder of their parents. It was a debt that would be seared into the blood, and a crime that could not be forgiven. How dare you, you madman! You must be sick of living for destroying the captain's statue. Pay with your life. A roar suddenly erupted from deep within the city. Several large presences surged into the sky as a few saint rulers that had joined the mercenaries shot toward the statue in rage. Chapter 1060. The first captain. The roars from the saint rulers rang through the entire city, so everyone learned that someone had destroyed the captain's sculpture. It threw everyone into a rage, to the point where even more mercenaries took to the skies and quickly flew toward the center. The main headquarters of the mercenaries was located toward the rear of the city. It was a palace constructed like an emperor's, and the core power of the mercenaries gathered there. The people in charge stayed in this palace. Currently, the green-dressed Bai Lian and several high-ranking members of the mercenaries were sternly discussing the developments of the flame mercenaries. Suddenly, a shout passed through the various obstructions and resounded clearly in the room, disrupting Bai Lian's meeting with the others. Bai Lian's complexion immediately darkened when she heard that someone had destroyed the sculpture of her own brother. Her eyes shone with a chilling light. I'd like to see just who it is that dares to destroy my brother's sculpture. I definitely won't let them go so easily for acting so recklessly. Bai Lian was enraged. She slammed the desk and left despite the meeting. She strode outward with a darkened face, while the high-ranking members followed closely behind her. Jianchen floated several hundred meters in the air at the center of the city. Jianchen crossed his arms and leisurely watched as the saint rulers quickly approached him. By his side, Rui Jin floated expressionlessly, gazing at the obliterated sculpture from time to time. Some doubt also filled his eyes. The saint rulers all possessed surging presences as they drew their saint weapons. Then, they surrounded Jianchen and Rui Jin. Surging energy pulsed wildly around them, which caused the surrounding space to slightly twist. They were ready for battle at any time. Who are you? Why have you destroyed Captain Jianchen's sculpture? Why don't you quickly? A saint ruler yelled at Jianchen as he glared at him, but before he had finished speaking, he became surprised. He stared blankly at Jianchen's appearance as disbelief flooded his face. The saint ruler stared blankly at him for quite a long time. Then, he asked with a trembling voice that was filled with shock, Why, you're Captain Jianchen. What? Captain Jianchen. The four other saint rulers all became astounded when they heard this. They immediately observed Jianchen carefully. They had never seen Jianchen before, but they had seen his images and his sculptures, so they were familiar with his appearance. They immediately noticed that the young man really did seem the same as their captain. Another tremendous aura appeared, rapidly drawing closer to Jianchen's location. It was the ancestor of the Bai family, Bai Hai, who flew over with Bai Lian at lightning speed. Both of their faces were pale as anger burned within them. The destruction of Jianchen's sculpture seemed to have touched their most sensitive area. They were currently thinking about how they would viciously punish the person who destroyed the sculpture. But when the two of them saw the saint rulers that encircled Jianchen and Rui Jin, they became stunned as stupefaction filled their faces. A bucket of cold water seemed to extinguish their roaring flames of anger, disappearing completely. Brother, how is it you? Bai Lian called out. She was astonished. Bai Hai also stared at Jianchen in stupefaction. Then, he looked at the pile of dust that was once a sculpture. He was confused. He had already learned that the person who destroyed the sculpture was his own great-grandson by now. We greet Captain Jianchen. The saint rulers that had arrived first finally confirmed Jian Chen's identity. Without any hesitation, they bowed and respectfully greeted Jian Chen. They were all extremely excited. Jian Chen was a legendary figure of the continent, someone that could only be heard about in stories. Even as saint rulers, they struggled to stay composed. As for their anger, it had completely disappeared long ago. Jian Chen saw Bai Lian's thin face, and his anger about the sculpture vanished in that moment. Love began to fill his heart, and he made his way through the air to Bai Lian in an instant. He then looked at her lovingly and pitifully, as he gently said, "Lianer, it really must have been tiring managing the matters of the mercenaries." Bai Lian could not help but smile sweetly from Jian Chen's loving concern for her well-being. However, she then gazed past the missing sculpture in the center of the city and became confused. She asked, "Brother, did you destroy the sculpture?" "Yes, it was me who destroyed it," Jian Chen said nonchalantly as he stared at the clouds of dust in the air. "Brother, the statue was sculpted with a great deal of effort from over 100 artisans I found." "Why did you destroy it? Was it badly sculpted?" Bai Lian felt like she had suffered a wrong as she spoke delicately. "Lianer, don't get mad. Brother has no intentions of blaming you. It's just that you don't understand the origins of the mercenaries. The statue standing in the center of the city should not be depicting me, but the first captain of the flame mercenaries," Jian Chen said softly. He gazed into the horizon as reminiscence filled his eyes. "The first captain? Aren't you the first captain, brother?" Bai Lian became surprised as disbelief filled her face. Jian Chen shook his head. "Lianer, I am not the first captain of the flame mercenaries. The first captain was called Kendall. I'm only the second." The matters from the past flashed through Jian Chen's head like a movie. Jian Chen thought back to the days where he wandered the magical Beast Mountain range with the members of the flame mercenaries. He could still remember clearly that many years ago, the flame mercenaries faced the pursuit of a Class 5 Golden Fur Tiger King. In the end, everyone died to it except him, including the first captain, Kendall. Kendall's greatest wish was for the flame mercenaries to become the greatest and most powerful mercenary group on the Tianyuan continent. As a result, Jian Chen took up the great aspiration of expanding the flame mercenaries in order to complete Kendall's wish. Back then, when he became the second captain of the flame mercenaries, he was alone. Afterward, Ming Dong joined. Now, after so many years, the mercenary group had expanded from its initial, nameless state to something that could shake up the continent. "Brother, who is the first captain of the flame mercenaries? Why haven't I heard a single thing about him after staying so long in the flame mercenaries?" Bai Lian asked. Jian Chen sighed gently. "He died many years ago." With that, Jian Chen suddenly grabbed at the ground with his two hands. The ground at the center of the city quickly began to move, and the soil surged rapidly into the air. It climbed higher and higher. In just a few seconds, Jian Chen erected a huge statue from the earth. Chapter 1061, Exploring the Tungsten Alloy Deposit. Once more all the mercenaries and merchants stared at the huge statue in shock as it had grown from the ground. Many of them became confused. The statue had completely replaced Jian Chen's sculpture, but it depicted another person. It was an honest-looking middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s. He was the first captain of the flame mercenaries, as well as the founder, Kendall. Jian Chen stared at the familiar face with mixed emotions as reminiscence filled his eyes. He would never forget how Kendall looked. He was like a scorching brand that had been deeply imprinted into the depths of Jian Chen's head. He could not forget him even if he wanted, and even though so many years had passed, he could recall it before his eyes exactly like when it happened. The statue that had grown from the ground was created by Jian Chen using his own abilities by taking control of the earth and then modifying it match the Kendall from his memories. This was not an extravagant expenditure. As long as one was a saint ruler that could control earth-attributed saint force, it could easily be achieved. However, Kendall's statue was still very fragile after its creation, and it lacked a certain charm. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes, and with a single thought, the earth-attributed energy of the world immediately began to bubble, surging in from everywhere with extremely great speed. In the end, it turned into a hazy earthen yellow light that flowed unceasingly into the statue. The color of the statue immediately became to change with the input of the energy. It began to whiten at a visible rate, the soft soil turning to tough stone, becoming harder and harder. Jian Chen could control all 6 attributes of energy, including light and dark. He had gathered all the earth-attributed energy in a radius of 100 kilometers, using all he had to construct Kendall's sculpture. Yu, Bai Hai, and the 5 saint rulers stared unblinkingly at the statue as it became harder and harder, observing the unfamiliar face. They all knew inside that this was probably the first captain Jian Chen spoke of. Although the statue at the center of the city which represented the glory of Flame City had completely changed, they dared not voice any objections even as high-ranking members. This was all what Jian Chen decided, and Jian Chen's status in the mercenaries was irreplaceably high. Even Bai Lian, in charge of managing the mercenaries, could not object. Jian Chen had basically become a god to every member of the mercenaries. He was the pillar of mental support for the entire group. A single casual sentence from him was like an edict from God himself. More and more people gathered around Kendall's statue, causing it to become crowded very soon. The large square became extremely packed. Most of the people were members of the Flame Mercenaries, and had come with burning rage. They wanted to brutally punish the person who destroyed Jian Chen's statue. However, they could not help but become doubtful when they saw Bai Lian and the saint rulers just floating in the air, taking no action whatsoever. They sensed that this matter did not seem as severe as they had imagined, but due to the distance and where they stood, many people could not see Jian Chen, so they failed to recognize him. After 10 whole minutes, the earth-attributed energy finally dispersed, and Kendall's sculpture was completed. Kendall's sculpture was currently as tough as steel. Jian Chen had even left a large quantity of earth-attributed energy within the sculpture, causing its toughness to greatly increase. Even Heaven's Saint Masters would struggle to break it. Kendall's statue did not radiate with any earth-shaking aura. It seemed extremely ordinary. His honest and kind-looking face was created in a lifelike fashion by Jian Chen, as if Kendall was still alive. Jian Chen stood with his arms crossed as he gazed at the statue with deep emotions. He said, "Do you all see? He was the first captain of the Flame Mercenaries. His name is Kendall, and the statue that stands in the center of the city belongs to him, not me. If there was not Captain Kendall, the current Flame Mercenaries would not exist." Bai Lian and the others all stared at the statue with their full attention. Their expressions became mixed, and they remained speechless for quite some time as the information was just too astounding. At the same time, the news that Jian Chen's statue had been changed spread through the entire city like wildfire. It caused a huge commotion, causing people to discuss it everywhere and at all times. Jian Chen stayed there for a while, before returning to the palace in Flame City. Soon after that, the news regarding Kendall as the first captain of the Flame Mercenaries was spread out as well, traveling through the entire city with lightning speed. Everyone there learned about the truth regarding this matter, as well as the identity of the person that the statue depicted. Although many people believed it still should have been Jian Chen as a statue, they did not show any objections, let alone any dissatisfaction, since Jian Chen had personally saw it through. Jian Chen gained an even clearer understanding regarding Flame City from Bai Lian. Everything happened smoothly. It could be said that ever since Jian Chen had returned from the Sea Realm and had taken back the city from the Extinguishing Alliance, the status of the Flame Mercenaries skyrocketed on the Tianyuan continent, allowing the mercenaries to successfully develop in an extraordinary fashion. Also, Jian Chen learned from Bai Lian that the first few members of the mercenary group had completed their training in Warrant City. They had all returned to Flame City and had successfully become a part of the Flame Mercenaries with the token of identification Jian Chen had given them all those years ago. Jian Chen treated them with particular importance as they were loyal subordinates. He met with them in person. Through the years outside when they had trained on the edge of life and death, they had undergone a baptism of blood, forged an iron willpower, gained powerful battle prowess, and nurtured a spirit that did not fear death. However, during their adventures on the Tianyuan continent, there were members who were lost, as well as some loyal, bold mercenaries that joined. Under the fluctuating number, there were 65 of them now. Each and every one of them had reached Earth's Saint Master, and they all possessed battle skills. Their strength was incomparable to ordinary people. On the other hand, the golden fur tiger king cub they had obtained in Walrant City had fallen in an intense battle before it had fully matured. Although no one reached Heaven's Saint Master out of all of them, a few slightly talented members had reached the 6th cycle of Earth's Saint Master. They were only an inch away from Heaven's Saint Master and had grasped Heaven-tier battle skills. Jian Shen had decided many years ago that he would use everything he had to nurture this group of people. As a result, he took them all into the artifact space, providing them with a quiet environment and all the resources required for cultivation, so that they would cultivate diligently to increase their strength. He even used invaluable heavenly resources of high maturity to change their constitutions. Jian Shen, even with the increase from the heavenly resources in their talent, they can only reach Saint Ruler at most due to innate restrictions. Some of them will even struggle to reach Saint Ruler. Is it really worth it to expend so much effort and resources in raising them? Rui Jin found Jian Shen's actions rather wasteful. Currently, the flame mercenaries are completely under my control. There were a few Saint Rulers who joined us, but they're completely untrustworthy. If the flame mercenaries wants to become truly powerful and maintain a steady, unmovable position on the Tianyuan continent, it needs to possess its own powerful force. They will be that force in the future, said Jian Shen. His decision in raising all of them was not wavered at all. There is no need to worry about their talent. There may be limits in what 1,000-year heavenly resources can change, but 10,000-year heavenly resources will definitely be able to change them completely. I may not be able to pull out that many heavenly resources at such a maturity right now, but looking for them would not be difficult with my current strength. There's also a wondrous item in the sea realm called the divine water of the world. Its effects far exceeds 10,000-year heavenly resources. Once I find enough of it after I proceed to the sea realm in the future, they will be able to undergo metamorphosis, making it such that their future accomplishments will reach Saint Ruler at the very least, Jian Shen enthusiastically explained as he had planned everything out. Rui Jin fell silent. He did not say anything more, as Jian Shen obviously had his reasons for what he did. Allowing the elite squad of the flame mercenaries to settle down, Jian Shen and Rui Jin arrived in a mountain range several dozen kilometers from the city. It was the mine where they had discovered the tungsten alloy deposit. However, the mountain range was no longer as majestic as before after so many years of mining. It was now filled with holes, and several mountains had been mined away. Several huge pits had been dug where tungsten alloy ore was more concentrated. There was indeed an extremely great quantity of tungsten alloy ore in the deposit. Even after building the city walls for quite a large city, there was still a lot left. However, the ore was extremely pure, so the mining process was extremely difficult. Even Heaven's Saint Masters would probably struggle to leave a mark if they struck with all they had, so the flame mercenaries stopped the mining process. They just did not possess the power to continue. Jian Shen arrived in the center of the mine with Rui Jin, staring down like a lord looking over his citizens. Below him was a large mass of jet-black tungsten alloy ore, littered with the marks from mining and gathering. Chapter 1062, The Growing Metallic Origin Energy. Jian Shen levitated above the mountain range as he looked down in interest. He was expanding his presence fully. It quickly passed through various obstructions and entered the ground. When he had first discovered the deposit, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian, had found a ball of origin essence hidden deep within the deposit. It possessed extremely great power and could assist people in breaking through to Saint King from the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. It was a rare treasure in the world. Jian Shen had also learned from the sword spirits that the origin energy hidden within the deposit was the origin energy of a metallic spirit from the 5 elements. Jian Shen's presence could pass through the obstructions of the tough tungsten alloy or to reach several hundred meters into the ground. He could clearly feel an extremely great power pulsing slowly. It was pure with no impurities whatsoever. Senior Rui Jin, you must have also discovered that something is hidden in the mountain range of the tungsten alloy deposit, Jian Shen said as he stared down unblinkingly. A gleam of light flashed through Rui Jin's eyes, and he nonchalantly replied, I indeed have. It's an extremely pure and great power. Though it's surrounded by a thick layer of tungsten alloy. There aren't many people who can break through this layer, so it's very hard to remove. Do you have the power to remove it with your current strength then? Jian Chen said. Although the origin energy of the metallic spirit was of no use to himself, he wanted to use it on other people. If you need it, I'll make an attempt at it with my sacred dragon sword, Rui Jin slowly answered. Afterward, a vast pressure began to radiate from him and the sacred dragon's sword was slowly covered by a thick layer of white light. The terrifying energy ripples caused the surrounding space to distort, showing signs of shattering apart. The origin energy of the metallic spirit is much greater than before. It's actually growing. Master, get Rui Jin to stop immediately. What he's doing will destroy it. Ziying's voice suddenly rang through Jian Chen's head. The sacred dragon's sword was already lifted high up, Rui Jin was just about to cleave down. Senior Rui Jin, let's wait actually. Jian Chen also reacted quickly. He immediately stopped Rui Jin, before concentrating on his sea of consciousness to converse with the sword spirits. Master, this ball of metallic origin energy is rapidly growing. If it has enough time, it will become even stronger and even gain self-awareness. It will grow into a spirit and become something like the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. Taking it out now would be destroying it no doubt, Ziying explained. Surprise flashed through Jian Chen's eyes. Pausing for a while in thought, he then said, how long would it roughly need to mature completely? We are unable to estimate that. It'll all depend on its rate of growth. However, the origin energy will become more powerful with time. Once it gains self-awareness, it will morph into a spirit. It will be richly endowed with talent and can cultivate at a heaven-defying rate. It will have great accomplishments in the future, said Ziying. The barrier spirit of Mercenary City is also a spirit born from energy. However, it came from the essence of the earth, so it's just slightly below the metallic origin energy of the 5 elements. It's a pity that the barrier spirit's innately incomplete, or her accomplishments would be far greater than right now, sighed Ziying. It's just that the chances for it to morph into a spirit are just too low. I cannot guarantee whether the origin energy will gain self-awareness or not. It'll all depend on its fortune, said Ziying. Jian Chen hesitated slightly with what the sword spirits had said, but he ended up giving up on the idea of taking the origin energy of the metallic spirit. Since it had a lot of room for growth, why not just give it some time? It would obviously be best if it could morph into a spirit, but even if it could not become self-aware, it would become even more powerful after a period of time. At that time, the benefits would be even greater if it was used to increase strength. Senior Rui Jin, let's leave the origin energy a little longer. It won't be too late to remove it when we need it, Jian Chen said to Rui Jin. You make the decision. When you want to remove it, I can assist you in breaking through the tungsten alloy shell, said Rui Jin. Right now, his opinion of Jian Chen was rapidly rising. They had become people at similar levels of strength long ago. Even if he had no need to keep Jian Chen alive, just his talent and cultivation speed was enough to hold him in high esteem. Jian Chen and Rui Jin's eyes froze suddenly, and they turned to look in the same direction simultaneously. On the horizon, a faint gleam of 5-colored light appeared, causing the sky to become all colorful. It was pretty. Another person's reached Saint Ruler. By the direction, it should be quite close to Jessen Kingdom, Jian Chen mumbled. He was extremely indifferent to the matter. Rui Jin casually glanced at the direction before losing interest as well. Reaching Saint Ruler was a big deal to normal people, but it was nothing to his eyes. Jian Chen did not pay too much attention to the rainbow clouds in the distance either. If it was several years ago, he would treat Saint Rulers as extremely strong experts, but they had all become extremely weak now, like ants. He really could not find any interest in people at those levels anymore. Jian Chen and Rui Jin left the mountain range together, returning to the city. He handed a flaming jadeite had been filled with Rui Jin's power to Bai Lian as a treasure to guard the city. Afterward, Jian summoned the 5 saint rulers that had joined the mercenaries and spoke with them. He made them swear some oaths, told them about the consequences of betrayal and so on. He then went to see De Gufeng. He originally wanted De Gufeng to put down what he was doing for the time being, so that he could devote all his energy into cultivation. However, Jian could not do anything since De Gufeng liked his current job very much. Jian had basically subdued De Gufeng like a servant back then, but he always treated De Gufeng as a good friend in the past years. He never forced De Gufeng to do anything, which was why Jian did not meddle with De Gufeng's choice. Jian, the disparity between our strengths is now like the distance from the ground to the sky. I can't catch up to you no matter how hard I cultivate, so there's no longer a point for me to follow you. All I can do is stay in Flame City and help you manage some affairs. Flame City is very big, but it has developed way too fast, so there's many problems with the management since it has failed to develop at the same rate. The 2 worst areas are the rules and the discipline. If those aren't managed well, problems will happen to the mercenaries sooner or later. This was De Gufeng's explanation to Jian as well as his reason for taking up the position of a disciplinary elder. Jian stayed for another 2 days in the city before leaving with Bai Hai after handing over some matters. He returned to the Changyang clan in Lore City through a space gate from Ruijin. As soon as he returned, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao came looking for him. He called Jian into a conference hall while Ruijin and Bai Hai both left to rest. They did not follow him to the hall. Jian discovered a few unfamiliar people as soon as he entered the grand hall. They were an old man and 3 women. However, the thing that surprised Jian was that Yu was actually present as well and not cultivating in outer space. Her complexion was not very great. Jian's face sank slightly when he noticed Yu's expression. He seemed to realize something before observing the 4 outsiders. The old man possessed a ruddy and sagely aura, like some old immortal. He sat there leisurely and did not speak. Jian had seen the old man before. He was one of the great elders of the Changyang Protector clan, a saint king at the 6th heavenly layer. One of the 3 women was a middle-aged beauty. She was a saint ruler while the other 2 ladies seemed to be in their 20s. They stood out quite a lot with their appearances as well. Though they were heaven saint masters. Jian, this is one of the 7 great elders of the Changyang clan, Changyang Qingjuri. He would be a great-grandfather of yours in terms of seniority, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao introduced for Jian. Changyang Qingjuri stared at Jian ever since he had come in. With Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's introduction, he immediately stood up and smiled amicably. He said, "You must be Shangtian. You really are a genius. The Protector clans gained quite the glory from you. Come sit, come sit." Changyang Qingjuri treated Jian extremely politely. Although Jian was a junior by age, he did not act snobbishly. Jian bowed politely before taking the empty seat next to Yu. He asked politely as he looked at Yu's troubled expression, "Yue, what's happening here?" Yu was clearly relieved now that Jian had made it in time. She seemed to have found the person she would rely on, and much of her worries vanished. She said to Jian, "They want my Bright Moon Divine Hall." "What?" Jian's expression abruptly changed with that, taking a bad turn in complexion. Chapter 1063. The greed of the Changyang clan. Jian suddenly narrowed his eyes as an intense anger uncontrollably rose within him. His gaze toward Changyang Qingjuri also underwent an overwhelming change, becoming extremely hostile. The Bright Moon Divine Hall now belonged to Yu. It was crucial for cultivation. She could only absorb moonlight force quickly through the Divine Hall. She would progress much slower in the future without it. The Divine Hall also functioned as a method where Yu could protect herself, and Jian would not need to worry for her safety. As a result, Jian became extremely angered now that the people of the Changyang clan actually wanted to take the Divine Hall from Yu. "Is that true? You want to take the Bright Moon Divine Hall?" Jian suddenly stood up and glared at Changyang Qingjuri. He acted pressingly, showing no respect for him. He was completely indifferent about the fact that Changyang Qingjuri was technically a great-grandfather of his. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao sat in the seat beside Jian Chen. He showed no intentions of stopping or persuading the angered Jian Chen. He drank tea leisurely and said nothing, as if he had seen nothing. Changyang Qingjuri had expected this from Jian Chen long ago, so he maintained an amicable smile. He said unhurriedly, "Xiangtian, it's not like what you think. The clan is just considering you use relatively low strength. The Bright Moon Divine Hall is an invaluable treasure, enough to cause any person of the continent to become green with greed. If it remains with Yu, it might just end up attracting endless trouble or even be taken by some powerful people. This is why the clan has decided to have Yu leave the Divine Hall in the clan, so that it can't be lost." "So in other words, you want to take the Divine Hall for Yuer's own good?" Jian Chen sneered. Changyang Qingjuri obviously could sense the sarcasm in Jian Chen's tone. His expression remained the same, but he was now filled with bitterness. He knew that taking the Divine Hall from Yu was almost impossible now. Changyang Qingjuri said after a period of silence, "Xiangtian, I know what you're worrying about. You can completely relax about that. You're now a member of the clan, so the clan would never do something against you. Having Yu leave the Divine Hall indeed has only benefits and is not detrimental in any way. She will remain as the owner of the Divine Hall. I appreciate your kindness for Yue. The Divine Hall is impregnable and is nowhere as fragile as ordinary ones. With the Divine Hall by her side, even Saint Emperors can't do anything to her, so leaving the Divine Hall with the Protector clan is completely unnecessary," said Jian Chen. Changyang Qingjuri's heart immediately skipped a beat when he heard that even Saint Emperors were helpless against the Bright Moon Divine Hall. He thought, the Divine Hall's actually so powerful. It's on par with the Divine Hall left behind by Mo Tianyun for Mercenary City. If the clan has the protection of a Divine Hall like that, do we still need to fear the other Protector clans and Mercenary City? Changyang Qingjuri's mood immediately began to surge. The 10 Protector clans were in possession of quite a few Divine Halls, but none of them could resist attacks from Saint Emperors. If they were in possession of one that could, the Protector Changyang clan could ignore the Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent and the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, becoming the only other clan that can rival Mercenary City. Even now, Changyang Qingjuri could still clearly remember the conflict between the 10 Protector clans and Mercenary City several tens of thousands of years ago. The Protector clan sent over 20 Saint Emperors. The group was so great that it outnumbered the Saint Emperors of Mercenary City several times over, yet Mercenary City only sent a single person. Through the powerful Divine Hall, he stopped all of the Saint Emperors from the Protector clans, shaking the entire continent. The middle-aged beauty, who was a saint ruler, began to talk, seeing how Changyang Qingjuri said nothing. "Changyang Xiangtian, legend has it that Fairy Hao Yu's cultivation method is the only method that exceeds Saint Tier on the Tian Yuan continent, and it is only suitable for females. Since your fiancée has become a disciple of Fairy Hao Yu, she must have obtained the cultivation method. Why not get her to offer it up? It'll be a great contribution to the clan, and it'll also allow our clan's strength to increase. If all the women of the clan use that cultivation method, we can completely surpass the 9 other clans in no time." Jian Chen's expression became even uglier. Not only did the Protector clan want you use Divine Hall, they even desired Fairy Hao Yu's cultivation method. This was far beyond what he could bear. Jian Chen had already clenched his fists tightly. The anger within him had peaked. If it were not for the fact that they were people of the Changyang clan and not some outsiders, he would have chased them out long ago. "Changyang Xiangtian, you're a member of the Protector Changyang clan. You use your fiancé, so we're really all just one big family. According to the rules of the clan, every member must treat the clan with utmost importance and do everything for the clan. Yu's cultivation method is extremely important to the clan, so she should offer it up," continued the woman. "Enough, shut up." Jian Chen could not longer bear with it anymore and slammed the armrest of his chair. The powerful force turned the chair to dust. He glared at the woman and Changyang Qingjuri and coldly said, "Don't go on about clan rules and benefits for the clan before me." Unless Yue is willing herself, no one can take away the Bright Moon Divine Hall or Fairy Haoyu's cultivation method. Otherwise, I will treat it as you going against me. Changyang Xiangtian, it's outrageous how you speak to your seniors. Do you really think that you can ignore the rules and the hierarchy of the clan just because you have great strength? I may be weaker than you, but you still should be referring to me as your great-grandmother in terms of family, the woman sternly said, wanting to suppress Jian Chen with her seniority. Jian Chen's lips curled into a sneer of disdain. You still don't have the right to be my great-grandmother. Everyone, my Changyang clan does not welcome you. Please leave. Jian Chen made a gesture, directly ordering the guests to leave. How dare you, Changyang Xiangtian? Don't you know who great-grandfather Juri is? He's a great elder of our protector clan. Why, you dare to treat him like that? You have no respect for your elders. A heaven saint master beside the middle-aged woman stood up furiously as she yelled at Jian Chen while pointing at him. Changyang Qing Juri was no longer able to remain as composed as before. He was a great elder of a grand protector clan. His status was so great, yet he was actually ordered to leave by someone younger than him. Would he still be able to retain any dignity if he abided? If it were not for the fact that this junior possessed a relatively special status, he would have taught him a lesson long ago. In no way would he have endured it. Let's go. Changyang Qing Juri glanced at Changyang Zhu Yunshao, who silently sat to one side, before waving his sleeve. He left furiously and hurriedly with the middle-aged woman and the two ladies. Changyang Zhu Yunshao slowly stood up after Changyang Qing Juri left, sighing deeply at the sky. He was filled with helplessness. Jian Chen, the two requests made by Changyang Qing Juri and the others are indeed rules of the clan, so I can't help you talk. You don't understand the protector clans. Our rules are extremely rigid and have existed since the ancient times. Even great elders dare not break them so easily. I hope you can understand, sighed Changyang Zhu Yunshao. I don't care how rigid the protector clan's rules are. I will never let them take anything from Yue. Though I do hope you don't end up helping them with that, Jian Chen replied. You don't have to worry about that. You're a member of the Zhu branch, so the branch will never make things difficult for you, including your great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Shao, Changyang Zhu Yunshao sternly explained. Jian Chen, great-grandfather Yunshao, you're actually worrying too much. Even if I offer up the Divine Hall and the cultivation method, they can't do anything with them. The Divine Hall is still controlled by Master's hands. I only have partial control over it. The cultivation method is even more so the case. Even if they obtain it, they can't use it for cultivation since they need a specific constitution, which can only be obtained through the personal modifications of Master, said Yu. They might not believe that. Fairy Haoyu may still be alive, but she's reduced to a soul. Her capability of deterrence is no longer as great as before. Changyang Zhu Yunshao said after some thought. He hesitated slightly before continuing once more, Jian Chen, the seal in Kong'er mine still has not been released. The Protector clan wants you to return, and then the 7 great elders can work together to release the seal. I hope you can make some time to visit the Protector clan regardless of how you feel about them, so you can release Kong'er from his 1,000 years of pain. Jian Chen agreed after a pause. I'll visit the Protector clan in 3 days. It'll all be for great-grandfather though. Chapter 1064, Visiting the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen left the conference hall with Yu. The two of them first visited Jian Chen's parents. During their conversation, Bai Yuntian mentioned the marriage between Jian Chen and Yu once more, but it was evaded by both of them together. Jian Chen was now in possession of enough strength to protect himself and the people around him, but there were still many matters he needed to deal with. He was in no mood to consider marriage. On the other hand, Yu now had the Bright Moon Divine Hall as well as Fairy Haoyu's cultivation method. Right now, her only objective was to increase her strength as fast and as much as possible, devoting all her energy into cultivation. She would consider marriage once she possessed enough strength to help out Jian Chen. Bidding farewell to Bai Yuntian and Changyang Ba, Yu did not stick by Jian Chen's side for very long. She entered the divine hall once more, going to outer space to cultivate. Once I drop off Uncle Chang, great-grandfather by Hai, Yang Ling, and Senior Huang Tianba at Mercenary City, I'll go to the Protector clan immediately and get them to release great-grandfather Changyang Zhu Yinkong's seal, Jian Chen thought after leaving his parents' room. The main reason why he visited Flame City last time was to take Bai Hai with him. He planned on leaving Bai Hai in Mercenary City so Xiao Ling could invoke the mysteries of the world for him to comprehend. Now it's just Senior Huang Tianba. The Huang family just happens to be rather close to here, so I'll go by myself. Jian Chen shot off like a cannonball, climbing high up into the sky with extremely great speed. He shot off in the direction of the Huang family, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He could not help but think of a flawless beauty in his head. He thought, it's been so many years. I wonder how Luan's been. With her talent, she should have made great improvement in these years. Jian Chen immediately sped up some more after that thought. The Huang family was over 30,000 kilometers away from the Jessen kingdom. With Jian Chen's speed, he only needed 2 short hours before arriving at the beautiful mountain, abundant with energy of the world, where the Huang family resided. Jian Chen descended outside the entrance of the manor. He did not conceal his presence, so he was discovered by experts of the Huang family as soon as he arrived. Several Heaven Saint Masters immediately shot out from within. They all became surprised when they recognized Jian Chen, and their stern faces immediately became replaced with smiles. They politely welcomed Jian Chen into the clan. With Jian Chen's current fame on the continent, almost all Hummet clans had heard about him. His current level of status could not be compared to his past. The Huang family immediately became overwhelmed by Jian Chen's sudden visit. Not only did the patriarch personally come out to receive him, even people of previous generations came out of seclusion. Jian Chen was younger than any of them, but he was still a saint king after all. He was indisputably someone who held great power on the continent where strength determined all. Jian Chen struggled a little to adapt to how everyone in the Huang family had come out to receive him. After conversing with the patriarch slightly, he cut to the chase. Patriarch, I've come this time to find Senior Huang Tianba. May I ask where he is currently? The ancestor has always been cultivating in seclusion, and he hasn't appeared in several years already. I will bring you to him if you are looking for the ancestor, said the patriarch, before directly flying to the rear of the mountain with Jian Chen and a few other experts of the clan. Very quickly, Jian Chen arrived at the sword-shaped ridge where Huang Tianba stayed in seclusion. It was surrounded by a barrier, and inside stood a single, old, wooden hut. Descendant greets the old ancestor. Brother Jian Chen has come to our clan, the patriarch spoke courteously to the hut as he stood outside the barrier. Jian Chen stared nonchalantly at the hut and some wonder appeared in his eyes. He said, Patriarch, there's no need to keep calling. Senior Huang Tianba's not in there. What? The ancestor's not there? The patriarch became stunned. Jian Chen nodded slightly before expanding his presence. He enveloped a radius of 1,000 kilometers in an attempt to find signs of Huang Tianba, but there was nothing. If I can't find him in the radius of 1,000 meters, expanding my presence any further than that would result in the same outcome. Looks like the senior's not in the clan right now, thought Jian Chen. The patriarch thought a little and said, Brother, Luan's a disciple of the ancestor from the Huanggu clan. She's always stayed in the Huanggu clan cultivating while the ancestor treats her like a treasure. Since the ancestor's not with us, he's probably gone to the Huanggu clan to see her. Luan's at the Huanggu clan, repeated Jian Chen inside. He then said, I'll visit the Huanggu clan then. Jian Chen declined the patriarch's attempts to get him to stay, leaving immediately after learning where the Huanggu clan was. The Huanggu clan was located in the south, hidden in a forest that was always covered with mist and filled with magical beasts. Very few people knew about its existence. 1,000-meter-tall tower stood in the center of the clan. That tower was the most sacred building in the clan since it was where the ancestor cultivated. A disheveled old man hung in the air of the top room in the tower. The room was completely sealed and slightly gloomy while the man was surrounded with huge, thick chains. He looked like a beggar. The old man possessed very great strength. Every time he struggled, the chains would rattle, but he could not break free from them no matter how hard he tried. You mongrel. You will pay for this. If I break free, I will never let you go. The old man's voice was hoarse with hatred. Before him stood the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. The ancestor was at ease and possessed a sneer. Huang Tianba, do you still think you have a chance at revenge? Why don't you think about your current predicament? Do you think you still have the ability to break free? You better give up on that thought. Mongrel, my Huang family has never done anything to your Huanggu clan. Why do you do this to me? Huang Tianba gnashed his teeth. He was haggard, no longer possessing his former glory. Chapter 1065, Disaster at the Doorstep. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan sneered, Huang Tianba, your precious great-granddaughter has already become a saint ruler now, and my great plan is about to come to an end. You are already someone at your end, so it doesn't matter even if I tell you. Huang Tianba, have you ever heard about the water spirit's body? The ancestor said. The water spirit's body? What water spirit's body? What has that got to do with my beloved great-granddaughter? Huang Tianba questioned. He had no idea about the specific constitution. I can understand why you don't know. The Huanggu clan ancestor sneered, the scripture of the aquatic sunflower I practice is a water-attributed saint-tier cultivation method. The water spirit's body is recorded in there. The water spirit's body is an extremely rare and special type of constitution on the Tianyuan continent. It very rarely appears on the continent. It's difficult to come across someone with it even over the span of 100,000 years. Anyone with that constitution is endowed with great talent for water-attributed cultivation methods. Not only do they improve at an astonishing speed, their future accomplishments are immeasurable. They have the potential to reach Saint Emperor. A powerful gleam of yearning began to glow in the ancestor's eyes when he mentioned Saint Emperor. Are you saying that my great-granddaughter is in possession of this water spirit's body that you mentioned? But what intentions do you have by taking her in as your disciple and passing the scripture of the aquatic sunflower to her? Huang Tianba's eyes shone with interest as he stared tightly at the Huanggu clan ancestor. Correct. That girl indeed is in possession of this rare constitution, but it has not been completely activated yet. If it were not for the wonders of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower, probably no one would have been able to discover her constitution beforehand, chuckled the Huanggu clan ancestor. You mongrel, so you want to control Wana and turn her into a puppet of your clan. Huang Tianba became enraged. He struggled furiously against the chains as he hung in mid-air, producing clanking sounds. Control? Ha ha ha, I've spent so much effort, and even passed the scripture of the aquatic sunflower to that girl. It's not going to be as simple as controlling her. I'm just helping her unlock the potential of her constitution, which I'll then absorb all her talent and pure water-attributed saint force through a secret technique. My strength will skyrocket and I will reach Saint King. At the same time, I will have hopes of reaching Saint Emperor in the future. The ancestor's eyes burned with greed. You bastard, you won't succeed. My great-granddaughter is Jian Chen's woman. Not only is Jian Chen a prodigy with unlimited potential, he has close ties with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. If you even touch my great-granddaughter, Jian Chen will never let you go, Huang Tianba roared hoarsely as surging hatred filled his eyes. Fear immediately appeared in the depths of the ancestor's eyes upon hearing Jian Chen. Although he had never left the clan in the recent years, he had an extremely clear understanding about the matters outside, especially with matters regarding Jian Chen. He knew even more than Huang Tianba. Jian Chen had resisted the 10 protector clans all by himself and had even caused them to back off. That was Jian Chen's power. But the ancestor seemed to think of something very soon. The fear in his eyes immediately vanished and he sneered, Huang Tianba, you're still thinking of Jian Chen even though. I must admit that he is a junior with shocking talent, but why would he come to my Huanggu clan? Even if he comes, he won't do anything to me. His lips curled into a sinister smile. After all, your beloved great-granddaughter has already reached Saint Ruler successfully. All her potential has been completely unlocked. I'll go find her right now, and very soon, there will be one more Saint King on the continent. No matter how great Jian Chen's abilities are, it's impossible for him to learn about what is happening here. You mongrel, I will never let you go even if I come back as a ghost, Huang Tianba roared furiously as his body trembled violently. However, his voice lacked power. With the current circumstances, he was indeed at the mercy of the ancestor. His strength was sealed. He did not even have the power to resist. Ha 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 ha, Huang Tianba, you better stay here and personally witness the birth of another Saint King, the ancestor wildly laughed, as if his future of reaching Saint King was already set in stone. The complacent smile on his face slowly vanished. However, just as he wanted to leave the room, a mighty voice suddenly rang from outside. The captain of the Flame Mercenaries, Senior Jian Chen, has come to visit the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen's voice was rather plain, but it spread out in all directions in the form of a visible sound waves. Not only did it cause all of the buildings in the clan to shake slightly, it passed through various obstacles, allowing everyone to hear it extremely clearly. Even those who were in completely sealed rooms, in seclusion, were not an exception. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan reacted abruptly as he was about to close the door to the room. In that moment, any joy of his completely vanished, and his complexion took a horrible turn. Deep fear and dread began to flood his eyes. Jian Chen, it's actually Jian Chen. Jian Chen's come to my Huanggu clan. The ancestor struggled to maintain his calm and composure as before. His heart began to heavily thump. In that moment, without even realizing it, he had already begun to tremble slightly. Crap, it'll be troublesome now. How has that bloody Jian Chen found his way here? Why can't he come a little later? His heart grew cold. What he dreaded the most was finally about to happen. Ha ha ha, it's brother Jian Chen. He's come. He has the support of the Grand Elder from Mercenary City. You mongrel, I'd like to see what you do now. Huang Tianba became filled with vigor once more. In that moment, he seemed to catch the glimpse of a ray of light in pure darkness. He had seen the hope of breaking out. Bang! The ancestor of the Huanggu clan slammed the door shut, as if he was afraid that Huang Tianba's voice would make it to Jian Chen's ears. His complexion was extremely horrible, and he became unsettled. He wanted to run, but once he thought about Jian Chen's current strength, he immediately gave up on that thought. Suddenly, an idea crossed his mind. He thought, Jian Chen may have come to my clan, but he has no idea about how I've been dealing with Huang Tianba and Huang Wan. In other words, the situation still hasn't reached its worst point. I still have a sliver of hope, and I also have a final trump card to keep me alive. He immediately calmed down by quite a bit with that before quickly dismissing his thoughts. He left the tower as if nothing had happened, personally going up to welcome Jian Chen. Haha, so it's my friend Jian Chen who's suddenly paid a visit. Your fame on the continent these days is like the noon sun, just as dazzling and unstoppable. It truly is an honor for you to visit my clan. If this news breaks out, my clan's status will definitely skyrocket on the continent. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan laughed excitedly from afar, flattering Jian Chen. Chapter 1066. Huang Tianba saved. Jian Chen knew that the ancestor of the Huanggu clan was Huang Wan's master, so he spoke relatively politely. He did not give off any particular presence, so he looked just like an ordinary person right now, floating mid-air as if he was standing. The ancestor's face was filled with smiles, arriving before Jian Chen with fake excitement. His compliments flowed unceasingly from his mouth, buttering up to Jian Chen. Jian Chen was oblivious to Huang Wan and Huang Tianba's current situation, which was why he responded very amicably to the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. After all, he was Huang Wan's master. The two of them conversed a little before cutting to the chase. Jian Chen said, Senior, may I ask if Luan and Senior Huang Tianba is with you? The ancestor's heart sank once again, but he showed none of it. He smiled. I was thinking that brother Jian Chen would be visiting for my beloved disciple and Huang Tianba. It's a pity though, you've come too late. My disciple's gone out for training while Huang Tianba is not in my clan either. What? They're not at your clan? Jian Chen was astounded. Yep. They're not with me right now. Huang Tianba may have gone traveling. Brother Jian Chen, if you want to find them, I'll contact you immediately if they come back to my Huanggu clan, the ancestor leisurely replied. However, no one knew that his emotions inside were the exact opposite. He wished that Jian Chen would leave as soon as possible. With every moment Jian Chen stayed, his uneasiness would increase. Jian Chen could not help but feel confused with what the ancestor had said. He had learned from Yu that ever since Huang had left Flame City to go to the Huanggu clan all those years ago, she had never appeared. There had not even been a single piece of news about her. When he first heard that, Jian Chen thought that Huang had always remained in the Huang family, cultivating arduously. However, only with his visit from before did he discover that Huang did not stay at the Huang family at all. As a result, there was only the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen felt suspicious about Huang going out for training mentioned by the ancestor. Suddenly, Jian Chen expanded his presence and enveloped the entire clan. He wanted to check whether it was actually like the ancestor said. Jian Chen's presence was extremely powerful. Combined with how profound it was, it passed through all the defenses and obstacles of the clan easily, allowing him to observe the clan clearly. However, Jian Chen's complexion changed the moment his presence swept through the tower in the center of the clan. A terrifying light exploded from his eyes and anger began to fume from him. Inside contained a deep killing intent as well. He had sensed a beggar-like old man, wrapped in chains within the hidden room. Although the old man was disheveled and haggard, Jian Chen recognized him with a single glance. It was the person he was searching for, Huang Tianba. Senior Huang, Jian Chen cried out furiously. He arrived before the tower with a flash and struck out with his hand. With a boom, the tower collapsed loudly, obliterated from Jian Chen's attack. The fragments of the tower shot off in all directions, destroying quite a few structures in the clan. Huang Tianba also fell from the sky with the destruction of the tower. With another flash, he appeared by Huang Tianba's side after leaving behind an afterimage of where he had been before. He caught Huang Tianba and gently landed. Huang Tianba's face had already become pale white. The ancestor of the Huanggu clan paled in fright. Badly shaken, he stared at the fuming Jian Chen and without any hesitation, he fled off into the distance as fast as he could. He swore inside, God damn it, how did Jian Chen know that Huang Tianba was trapped in the tower? He clearly didn't know before. Right now, all he wanted to do was survive. He could not bother with the lives of his clansmen. Suddenly being saved, Huang Tianba obviously became extremely emotional. Just as he wanted to say something, he saw the ancestor of the Huanggu clan trying to flee and immediately became enraged as well. He called out, Jian Chen, don't let that mongrel go. Don't worry, Senior Huang. He can't escape. Icy killing intent formed in Jian Chen's eyes. Throwing that down, he immediately began to pursue the ancestor. In the air, the ancestor fled while Jian Chen pursued. They both used spatial force and moved extremely quickly. However, as they both were at the seventh heavenly layer in terms of their comprehensions for the mysteries of the world, the distance between them never really closed after a while of pursuit. With a flip of his hand, Jian Chen drew his Emperor armament from his space ring. With the injection of chaotic force, the Emperor armament immediately began to shine with dark light. The terrifying energy caused the surrounding space to distort, creating pitch-black cracks. Jian Chen's battle prowess immediately skyrocketed with the Emperor armament. The terrifying presence caused the ancestor of the Huanggu clan to pale in fright, now filled with despair inside. Jian Chen swung his sword and a huge, black sword chi immediately shot out, flying toward the ancestor with lightning speed. The Huanggu clan ancestor wanted to dodge, but the sword chi was not something he could avoid. There was a humongous disparity between saint kings and saint rulers. Arg! The sword chi caught up to him in the blink of an eye and cleaved off his legs. The only body he had left was from the waist up. Violent pain caused him to shriek out in a chilling fashion, and it even affected his speed. He began to slow down. Jian Chen put away the emperor armament and caught up to him with lightning speed. This time, he did not treat the ancestor as politely as before. He ignored his painful cries, taking him away by grabbing his clothes. The Huanggu clan had fallen into chaos as of right now. The activity from the destruction of the tower had alarmed all the people in the clan. Everyone stopped their cultivation and stepped out of their residences to check what was happening outside. All the members of the upper echelon had already arrived beside Huang Tianba in the meantime. They all stared at him in shock as disbelief flooded their faces. They all recognized Huang Tianba as the ancestor of the Huang family, but they had no idea what their own ancestor had done. They all felt extremely shocked with Huang Tianba's current appearance, completely confused about what had happened. At this moment, a vast presence appeared in the distance. Jian Chen returned furiously to the clan with the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and landed on the ground. Afterward, he made his way to Huang Tianba, step by step while carrying the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. His face was sunken while his eyes were icy cold. Dense killing intent continued to linger on him. Ancestor. Ancestor. The group of people recognized that Jian Chen currently carried their ancestor with a single glance. Their faces all changed drastically as they called out sorrowfully. Release the ancestor. A middle-aged heaven saint master cried out, charging at Jian Chen with a saint weapon. His eyes were bloodshot from anger. Piss off. Jian Chen angrily yelled out. He did not even glance at the person as he punched out. He used the toughness of his body to resist the person's saint weapon. Ding! Jian Chen's fist collided with the saint weapon, and it shattered like tofu from Jian Chen's punch. Jian Chen's fist continued on with no reduction in force, mercilessly landing on the Heaven Saint Master's chest. The Heaven Saint Master spurted blood from his mouth as he shot back like a cannonball. He passed through several buildings before stopping 100 meters away in the end. His entire chest had caved in, and his organs had all turned to mush from the might of Jian Chen's punch. Sixth Elder. The Heaven Saint Masters of the Huanggu clan all called out, immediately flying to the man who had been injured by Jian Chen. They discovered that he had lost all signs of life. Jian Chen's casual punch had claimed his life on the spot. All the people of the Huanggu clan immediately quietened down after witnessing Jian Chen's strength. They all stared at him in surprise and fear. No one else dared to say anything more. They stepped aside to give way to Jian Chen. Jian Chen, you're still a supreme expert of the continent after all. You've actually murdered a Heaven Saint Master, the ancestor of the Huanggu clan furiously yelled out. The person who had passed away was his great-grandson as well as the most talented person in the clan. He was treated with great importance by the ancestor. Chapter 1067, Huang reaches Saint Ruler, it doesn't matter who you are. If you attack me, I'll kill you without mercy, Jian Chen coldly said. His impression of the Huanggu clan had completely reversed. He treated them as enemies now. Huang Tianba had showed great kindness to him before, and he was also Huang's great-grandfather. It did not matter what happened between Huang Tianba and the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. Jian Chen would always stand by Huang Tianba's side. Jian Chen slowly made his way to Huang Tianba's side with the legless ancestor in his hand. He threw him to the ground mercilessly before squatting down. He asked in concern, Senior Huang, are you all right? Just what has happened? Huang Tianba eyed the ancestor of the Huanggu clan that had collapsed on the ground like mud. He felt extremely delighted inside and was also extremely shocked by Jian Chen's strength. Huang Tianba's understanding of Jian Chen's strength remained at the level from several years ago. He had no idea just how terrifying Jian Chen had become. Brother Jian Chen, that mongrel did all this to me all because my precious great-granddaughter is in possession of the rare water spirit's body. She's a prodigy with unlimited potential in the future. She is currently trapped by this bastard over 1,000 meters underground in a room. Please go save her, Huang Tianba spoke rather hurriedly. He was extremely concerned for Huang's well-being. Jian Chen's face changed with that. He immediately expanded his presence and had indeed discovered Huang trapped in a room underground. The room was enveloped by a powerful barrier. Jian Chen's heart ached when he saw Huang's haggard face. He could not imagine just how much pain she had gone through during these years. A killing intent even more powerful than before erupted from the bottom of Jian Chen's heart, targeting the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. "Senior Huang Tianba, I'll free you from your chains first," Jian Chen hoarsely said. He grabbed the thick chains with his two hands, and with some force, the chains were crushed to pieces with a few cracks. Although the chains were made from a special type of metal, they were not unbreakable. Huang Tianba's strength was sealed up, so he could not use his powers as a saint ruler. That was why he was chained up for so long. Huang Tianba recovered his freedom and teetered as he stood up. He thanked Jian Chen, before arriving in front of the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. He laughed out loud without any restraint before gnashing his teeth. "Never did you think that you would end up like now, did you? I'd like to see how you harm my precious great-granddaughter now." Huang Tianba's voice was filled with resentment. He kicked the ancestor's body as he spoke, but since his strength was currently sealed, as well as the fact that he had been chained up for so long, not only did he fail to hurt the Huanggu clan ancestor, he lost his footing and ended up staggering back. Jian Chen helped Huang Tianba regain his balance with one hand and said, "Senior Huang Tianba, I'll leave this person with you to deal with. Your strength is currently sealed. You should enter the Saint Artifact space where I'll get someone to remove the seal from you." Jian Chen was unable to remove the seal in Huang Tianba as the brutality of chaotic force was not something ordinary people could endure. If his chaotic force entered Huang Tianba's body, it would harm him rather than help him. "No, I have to kill this bastard right now." Huang Tianba was absolutely furious. Killing intent surged from him. He utterly despised the ancestor of the Huanggu clan inside. The Huanggu clan ancestor looked up at the furious Huang Tianba. Not only was fear absent in his eyes, he even laughed complacently. "Ha ha ha, Huang Tianba, I can give a reason why you won't want to kill me, unless you want your precious great-granddaughter to die." Huang Tianba's expression changed immediately with that. He glared at the ancestor of the Huanggu clan and roared out, "Bastard, what did you do to her?" Even Jian Chen's expression took a turn for the worse with that. "Ha ha ha ha, Huang Tianba, I'll tell you since you want to know." His face was filled with smugness. Even after falling into Jian Chen's hands, he did not fear losing his life. "I've cast an ancient secret technique on the soul of your precious great-granddaughter long ago. I've left behind an imprint that entwines our fates in her soul. If you kill me, the imprint will erupt and kill her as well, wiping out her soul. Huang Tianba, kill me if you want your great-granddaughter to die as well." With that, Huang Tianba and Jian Chen's faces both darkened in expression. If that truly was the case, they dared not kill him. "Senior Huang Tianba, I'll let you into the artifact space to remove the seal first. I'll immediately go check on Huang and see if that really is the case," Jian Chen emotionlessly said to Huang Tianba. He then used the Saint Artifact to suck him away before he could even object. At the same time, he contacted the artifact spirit to get Hong Lian and He Yu to remove Huang Tianba's seal. Jian Chen obviously would not let the ancestor of the Huanggu clan go either. He also sucked him away, but his treatment in the artifact space would be a whole different story. The members of the Huanggu clan stood in the surroundings, stunned. All of them experienced mixed expressions. None of them had thought that their ancestor would actually do something so treacherous to the Huang family, a family they were always on good terms with. All of them were extremely shocked and struggled to accept this, feeling extremely heavy inside. They dared not show any disrespect to Jian Chen. Although they did not know about Jian Chen as well as their ancestor, they had heard about him at the very least and knew that Jian Chen was not someone their clan could agitate. Not to mention, their strongest member, their ancestor, just had his legs cleaved off, which deterred them from acting recklessly before Jian Chen even more. With a dark face, Jian Chen's eyes swept over all of the clansmen of the Huanggu clan. Whoever he stared at felt like a sharp sword was poised against them. They shivered inside, all lowering their heads. They were all completely unsettled. Jian Shen did not make it difficult for these people. He understood that they had no clue about this matter at all and knew nothing of what their ancestor had done. Afterward, Jian Shen expanded his presence straight into the ground, finding the tunnel leading to the room where Huang was. He then climbed down it. Huang sat in the middle of the sealed room. Dazzling water blue light lit up her surroundings, making her seem sacred and dignified, like a god. The surroundings of the room were filled with droplets of crystal clear water. Each droplet radiated with a blue glow, dyeing the entire room a deep blue. It was rather pretty. There were a few droplets of water that drifted about, slowly rotating around Huang. They were like energetic fairies, filled with beauty. Huang's presence was countless times greater than before. The 5-colored rainbow clouds that had appeared several days ago were because of her. She was no longer a heaven saint master anymore but a saint ruler. The hidden potential of Huang's water spirit's body was fully unlocked as she reached saint ruler. It was truly the water spirit's body now. She was like the mother of water, extremely close with the water-attributed energy in the world. She could control it as she wished, at a proficiency that no one could rival. Chapter 1068, A Hidden Crisis. Suddenly, the water-attributed energy in the room began to pulse violently. Even the droplets of water that floated about like fairies lost their ability to levitate, falling out of the air and splattering on the floor. The water-attributed energy in the world suddenly became extremely unstable. Huang slowly opened her eyes. She glanced past the water droplets with her bewitching eyes as she furrowed her brows. Odd. Why do I suddenly feel like I have far less control over the water-attributed energy and that I feel like I'm losing control inside? Huang murmured. She pondered and seemed to realize something very quickly. An idea flashed through her head as she mumbled to herself, is it because of the cultivation method? Did that old bastard not give me the true scripture of the aquatic sunflower? The more Huang thought, the more she believed that to be the case. She gradually became solemn as a result, but she soon recovered her cool. She calmed down once more and said, it doesn't matter anymore whether that old bastard has given me the true thing or not. I've reached Saint Ruler now, and I'm countless times more powerful than a heaven saint master. Once that old bastard comes, I'll put up a desperate fight. Even if I have to lose my life as the price, I won't let him have it easy. As long as the news of what happened here makes it out, the clan will definitely find a way to save great-grandfather. Determination flowed in Huang's eyes. She had already made up her mind about her death. She no longer yearned for a free life like before, because she knew that it was probably impossible. Suddenly, a rumble began to ring out. The heavy door began to slowly open. Huang immediately dismissed her thoughts and her eyes narrowed at that moment. Dense killing intent flickered in her eyes. She knew the ancestor of the Huanggu clan had come. If she wanted to heavily injure someone more powerful than her, she needed to attack with everything she had when he was unaware, catching him off guard. Otherwise, she would definitely fall to a disadvantage in an open battle. The dense and pure energy in the room began to surge. A blue sword, 2 fingers wide, had already appeared in Huang's hand. It glowed with a bright blue light, and through the light, the surface of the sword rippled unceasingly. At this moment, the door of the room had opened by a portion. It was pitch black outside, so all that could be seen was a black figure standing silently outside. His appearance was unclear. Over the past years, only one person ever walked through that doorway, and that person was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. As a result, Huang treated the figure as the ancestor, so before the door had completely opened, she stabbed out. The strike was Huang's most powerful attack after charging up. It was everything she had, pushing her strength of the first heavenly layer past the limits. The sword shot through the air and immediately began to shine brightly, becoming as dazzling as the sun. It dyed the dim room blue as powerful ripples of energy pulsed from the sword. It caused the surrounding space to distort as black cracks immediately appeared. They were cracks in space. Huang discovered that the water-attributed saint force within her began to pulse in an unstable manner as she stabbed out, vaguely feeling like she had lost control. However, she could no longer bother with that feeling anymore. She devoted all of her attention to the attack, trying to deal a heavy blow by catching the ancestor off guard. She only wished to injure him and had no hopes of killing him. The black figure in the doorway did not panic, nor did he dodge or block. He remained where he was, in the same position. Not even energy leaked from him. Huang's strike was like a lightning bolt, arriving before him instantly. She mercilessly thrust it toward the chest of the figure, and the exact moment the sword come in contact with the figure, Huang discovered through the dazzling blue light that the clothes and stature of the person before her did not seem to match the Huanggu clan ancestors. However, she had no more time to think about that. Boom! Huang's full-powered thrust viciously struck the chest of the figure. Pure water-attributed energy immediately erupted, and with a deep sound, the residual energy slammed into the surrounding walls as a terrifying wave. It caused the entire room to violently tremble. The room probably would have collapsed if it were not for its toughness. Huang immediately rejoiced when she saw how her attack had landed precisely on his body. However, her joy quickly disappeared. She could feel that her sword had failed to pierce him in the way she had imagined. Instead, she seemed to have struck a steel board, and the powerful reaction force numbed her hand. Huang's heart sank. She thought that the ancestor had probably come prepared, so her full-powered attack was unable to cause any harm to him. Luan. At this moment, Huang heard a gentle voice. She immediately jolted in a violent fashion. She was just too familiar with this voice. It would even appear in her memories quite often. Huang stared at the figure in shock. She finally saw the person's appearance through the dazzling blue light of the sword. It was an extremely familiar face. Although it had changed slightly from several years ago, the face was still the same one burned deeply into Huang's mind, the one she could not forget even after an eternity. Huang became stunned as she stared at the person she thought of the most. She could not come back to her senses even after a very long while. Her heart beat furiously as her body trembled uncontrollably. 2 clear streaks of tears slowly ran down her cheeks from her bright eyes. Jianchen, she said with a trembling voice. She struggled to believe that the person before her right now was Jianchen, who she missed most, and not the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. At that moment, she felt like everything was a dream, and she no longer experiencing reality. Luan, it's been hard for you during these past few years, Jianchen softly replied. His voice was extremely gentle as his heart ached. The sword remained pressed against Jianchen's chest. Huang's attack from before had obliterated Jianchen's clothes, but it failed to harm him at all. Jianchen, is it really you? Huang asked again with a trembling voice. Fat tears rolled down her cheeks, flowing faster and faster. The sword in her hand also fell as it trembled. Luan, it's me. I've come to save you. You're safe now. No one will ever be able to harm you again in the future. Jianchen stepped forward and tightly embraced Huang. He felt like his heart was being stabbed inside. He dared not to imagine exactly what Huang had gone through, exactly what burden she felt, or exactly what suffering she had endured after being trapped for all these years. There were countless people who faced horrible fates on the Tianyuan continent, with many more people who suffered even worse than Huang. However, Huang bore an extremely important status in Jianchen's heart. He would not allow her to suffer any harm. The sword in Huang's hand slowly disappeared, and the coldness on her face gradually vanished, replaced by a gentleness that had not been seen for several years. Even her icy gaze began to thaw. She then cried out Jianchen's name before lunging into his bosom, breaking into tears. She seemed to be releasing all the pressure and grievances she had suffered over the years. Jianchen embraced Huang tightly. He could feel his clothes dampen from Huang's tears. His heart ached from what Huang had gone through, but at the same time, he felt some joy. He was happy that Huang had now become a saint ruler. Suddenly, Jian Chen's face froze. He gently furrowed his brows. He could feel that the energy within Huang was surging violently, as if it was not under her control at all. It rampaged about before surging out of her body into the room in the form of a bright, blue light. Huang was encased by the light of the leaking energy, becoming extremely blinding. "Luan, what is happening?" Jian Chen asked in concern. He felt an ill omen about what was unfolding before him. Huang gradually calmed down and raised her head from Jian Chen's chest. Her eyes were no longer cold, now filled with gentleness as she looked at Jian Chen. "Jian Chen, it's probably because the scripture of the aquatic sunflower from that old bastard has problems. It's very hard for me to control the power within me now. I feel like all the energy is about to leave my body and break free from my control." With that, Huang placed her head against Jian Chen's chest once more. Her face was filled with satisfaction and happiness, as if she did not care about the leaking of her energy at all. She had made up her mind about her death long ago. She no longer had any attachments in the world except to Jian Chen and Huang Tianba. Since her great-grandfather had been saved now and the person who she missed the most was with her, she felt very satisfied. She did not care about being a saint ruler at all. All she needed was Jian Chen, and she felt like she had the world. She did not care about anything else. "I'll definitely make that old bastard wish he was better off dead for treating you like this." Jian Chen's face was pale white. He was panicking since he was unable to stop the energy from leaking out of Huang. Suddenly, a golden streak of light shot out from the center of Jian Chen's eyebrows. The saint artifact had emerged from his sea of consciousness, levitating in the room in the form of a fist-sized golden tower as it spun slowly. "Luan, I'll send you into the artifact space. Don't worry, I'll definitely be able to find the method to deal with this from that old bastard," Jian Chen comforted. He intended on entering the artifact space with Huang. "Jian Chen." Just as he was about to enter the artifact space, a woman's voice rang through the room. It was extremely pleasant and seemed to be filled with unlimited charm. It was bewitching. A gleam of light flashed through Jian Chen's eyes, and he suddenly raised his head. Before him, the illusionary figure of the sea goddess had silently appeared at some point unbeknownst to him. Chapter 1069, Huang surrenders her body. "Your Majesty, why have you appeared here?" Jian Chen asked in surprise. He was in great shock. "If I didn't appear now, your friend would be completely doomed. Once the energy within her and the potential of her water spirit's body leaks away, she will become immortal. It would be a waste for a great water spirit's body," the sea goddess said with a gentle but dignified voice as she stared at Huang. Jian Chen immediately began to panic when he heard that Huang could become immortal, as well as the fact that energy was leaking out of her body unceasingly. He hurriedly requested, "Your Majesty, please save Luan." The sea goddess pointed with a finger. There was no earth-shaking presence that erupted. It just seemed to freeze time. As she extended her finger, the pure water-attributed energy in the room immediately froze. Even the energy leaking out of Huang seemed to be obstructed by a mysterious power, sealing it firmly within her. Huang's face immediately changed when she sensed the change in her body. She was astounded. She felt like all the energy within her belonged to someone else in that instance. She had no control over it. Although she had been losing control over the energy before, she still maintained some authority. She was just unable to stop it from leaking out. Now, she had completely lost all authority, as if all the energy she had gathered arduously from cultivation in the past years had become someone else's. Freezing the pure energy with a single gesture, the sea goddess looked to Jian Chen. "Jian Kem, I can only forcefully control some of the power with my soul and prevent it from leaking out anymore. If you want to save her, it'll all depend on you yourself." Jian Chen could not help but feel relieved now that Huang was temporarily out of danger. He said, "Your Majesty, just how do I make it so that Huang retains her strength? Is it finding the correct cultivation method?" The sea goddess shook her head. "I know a little about the scripture of the aquatic sunflower she cultivates. It was created by a prodigy several hundreds of thousands of years ago. In the very beginning, there was only one version. It was a water-attributed cultivation method that belonged to the upper levels, extremely wondrous in nature. The prodigy reached Saint King in just 1,000 years using this method. Afterward, he came across a woman who possessed the water spirit's body. The speed at which she practiced water-attributed cultivation methods completely astounded the prodigy, so he became interested in her. Approaching her intentionally, he quickly became her cultivation partner. As he came in contact with the water spirit's body many times, the prodigy gained an even clearer understanding regarding the special constitution. He used his supreme talent to create a second version of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower in a few decades and then passed it on to his cultivation partner to practice. The woman did not doubt him at all and began cultivating the second version of the cultivation method. However, what she never realized was that the second version was not a powerful cultivation method, but a cultivation method that was made for the water spirit's body. After practicing it, she lost control over all the energy within her, and even the potential from the water spirit's body was taken from her. She became just like your friend right now. The prodigy absorbed all the pure, water-attributed energy from his partner as well as the potential of the water spirit's body, turning it into his own. Not only did his strength skyrocket, even his talent in cultivation greatly increased. He became a saint emperor on the Tianyuan continent in the end. As for his partner, she lost all her powers and turned into a mortal. She was reduced to an old, white-haired woman from her beauty before and committed suicide from heartache. The sea goddess paused slightly there. She looked at Jian Chen before continuing, "You should understand now. Your friend has practiced the second version of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower. The person who gave it to her wants to use the same special method as that prodigy to absorb your friend's energy and potential and turn it into his own." Jian Chen and Huang both fell silent because of what the sea goddess said, and they remained silent for a very long time. They felt greatly influenced by the sea goddess story. They all felt sorry for the woman who was harmed by her husband, feeling deeply sympathetic. At the same time, Jian Chen's killing intent for the ancestor of the Huanggu clan grew even denser. It reached an absolute limit, except he did not unleash it here. "Your Majesty, what happened to the prodigy in the end?" Jian Chen inquired. He cared for the answer very much. "After reaching Saint Emperor, the prodigy became embroiled in a large-scale battle and was killed," said the sea goddess. Jian Chen was satisfied by the outcome of the prodigy. Although he possessed great talent, he was evil-hearted. He ruthlessly harmed his wife who trusted him. He deserved more than death. That woman is so pitiful. Huang was filled with sympathy. Also, as a woman and in possession of the water spirit's body, she felt deep pain for what the woman had gone through. "There is nothing pitiful if you live in this world," the sea goddess said. Her voice was gentle, but it was emotionlessly cold. She was one of the 4 champions from ancient times and had emerged step by step from a ruthless past. She had just seen too many things like this. The sea goddess continued after some silence, "Jian Chen, there's only one method to save your friend, to let her keep her water spirit's body and her current strength." "What's the method?" Jian Chen gathered his attention and quickly threw the story regarding the scripture of the aquatic sunflower to the back of his mind. He had a deep understanding regarding the brutality of the continent, so it was difficult for his mental state to be affected by a few stories. At most, he would just form some feelings for it. Huang also turned to the sea goddess. She did not know the sea goddess' true identity right now, but she clearly paid much attention since the sea goddess could resolve her problem. Although Huang had opened her mind a lot more and no longer viewed her strength with much importance, she also understood very well that she needed to have enough strength to stay beside Jian Chen. Her lifespan would greatly decrease if she lost all her powers and became immortal, and she would age as a result. If it was possible, she also wished to retain her strength so that she could be with Jian Chen forever. The sea goddess did not reply immediately. Her gaze became rather complicated, and she only spoke after hesitating. "Jian Chen, if you want to resolve the problem with your friend's body, you need to use an even greater force to suppress the potential that's being stripped away, and then you will redeposit it into her with my assistance from the side, thus rebuilding the water spirit's body." Jian became a little troubled. Your Majesty, the power I use is too great. Huang's body may not be able to withstand it. Your power is indeed very great, something that ordinary people cannot withstand, but don't worry. I have a way of weakening your power. The water spirit's body is no ordinary constitution. If the two of you come together, you can control the power so that it enters slowly from the lower body and then have it pause in the dantian of the water spirit's body. The pure water-attributed energy will neutralize your brutal energy. Coupled with my help, she should be able to endure your power, the sea goddess explained. What? We have to use a method where we come together? Jian immediately became surprised as disbelief flooded his face. He doubted what he heard right now. Huang also became bright red in an instant. She peeked at Jian from the corner of her eye before quickly burrowing her head into Jian's chest. She hugged him even tighter. That's the only method I can think of. There's nothing else other than that. The sea goddess stared deeply into Jian's eyes. But that'll harm Luan. Jian hesitated as he wavered. He could not make up his mind. At the same time, he could clearly feel Huang against his chest, and he felt like he was rapidly heating up. Huang slowly raised her head. Some affection filled her bright eyes as she glanced at Jian in an infatuated manner. She said, Jian, I belong to you. Both my body and my soul belong to only you. In this world, only you are worthy of me. I'm not afraid of being harmed. Huang's breath became rather haggard as she spoke and her heart beat even heavier. She slowly unbuttoned her dress and it immediately slid down her body, revealing her white skin. Luan, Jian bit his lip as he looked at Huang's enchanting, hourglass figure. Although he knew that Huang was deeply in love with him, he felt like he was just taking advantage of the situation and the circumstances to become one with Huang. Jian, I only have you in my heart. I belong to you since a very long time ago. I love you very much. Take me. I want to truly become your woman. Huang stared at Jian with deep affection as she slowly began to take off Jian's clothes. Huang was clearly extremely straightforward with her emotions. She did not suppress or avoid them purposefully, completely different to ordinary girls. Jian slowly closed his eyes. He seemed to be in a great dilemma inside, but when he opened his eyes once more, there was no longer any hesitation, only determination. Bang! With a jolt, a powerful force erupted from him and turned his clothes into shreds, revealing his almost perfect figure. He then tightly hugged Huang's burning body. At the same time, he brought his lips to meet Huang's cherry lips. Two naked people coiled together 1,000 meters underground. Chapter 1070, Entwined Fates. The light that had dyed the room a water blue had already disappeared. It was pitch black currently, so dark that nothing could be seen. Only enchanting, arousing sounds constantly rang out. Jian remained clear-headed in the room. He carefully guided slivers of chaotic force slowly out of his dantian and into Huang's body through a special method. He then had them stop in Huang's dantian for a while according to the sea goddess method. Huang's water spirit's body was indeed much more wondrous than any ordinary constitution. Even though she had lost control of the pure, water-attributed energy, it was no weaker than before. He could indeed feel the brutal, destructive presence of the chaotic force being neutralized by the energy when it paused in her dantian, constantly weakening. Jian, I will now tell you the detailed method on how to rebuild the water spirit's body. You must do everything according to my instructions and do nothing wrong, or the reconstruction will probably be impossible, the sea goddess voice rang in Jian's head. Afterward, she extended a finger and the frozen pure energy in the room immediately began to surge toward Huang's body, before disappearing into her. All the energy and potential of the water spirit's body that had drifted out returned to Huang's body under the control of the sea goddess. Ever since she began to practice the second version of the scripture of the aquatic sunflower, Huang's water spirit's body had been ruined and was about to collapse. If the sea goddess had not arrived in time, she probably would have lost all of her powers and would have been reduced to a mortal. The sea goddess passed on the method to reconstruct the water spirit's body to Jianchen, and then assisted him from one side. She used her powerful soul that belonged in the origin realm as well as her supreme control over water-attributed energy to rebuild the water spirit's body with Jianchen. The constitution was something unique that would rarely appear even over the span of 100,000 years. It was completely innate, not something that could be achieved through cultivation. Huang's water spirit's body was about to collapse, and her energy and potential had already begun to disperse. Rebuilding the constitution under such a situation was undoubtedly an extremely difficult matter, even impossible. The water spirit's body was no ordinary constitution. Even well-versed saint emperors would have no idea what to do with it, let alone rebuild it. However, it was fortunate that Huang received the help from the sea goddess this time, which was why the constitution could be recovered. The sea goddess was one of the 4 supreme experts from ancient times after all, having reached the legendary origin realm. As a supreme existence in regards to water, no one could rival her understanding of the water spirit's body. The reconstruction process was successful. Jianchen did what the sea goddess instructed and followed every step and detail carefully. Finally, after one whole day, Huang recovered her water spirit's body. Now that the problems in her body were completely removed, Huang's senses of water immediately reached an unprecedented level. She could also feel that the compatibility between her body and water-attributed energy was unbelievable. Right now, she only needed a single thought to instantly gather all the water-attributed energy in the radius of several dozen kilometers, all of which would be under her control. She had experienced this before, but it was never as powerful as right now. Not only did the Constitution provide Huang with almost heaven-defying talent in cultivation, it also granted her supreme control over water-attributed energy as well as a future of infinite potential. The chaotic force that entered Huang did not return to Jianchen's body. It was permanently deposited in Huang's body under the sea goddess control, allowing Huang to refine it into strands of pure, water-attributed saint force. It became her own power. Although not a lot of chaotic force had entered Huang's body, each strand was composed of vast quantities of energy, so just that tiny amount caused Huang's strength to skyrocket. She reached the 3rd heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. However, that was not all that happened. Even her water spirit's body benefited, increasing the toughness of her body. It was still far from Jianchen's chaotic body, but no one else could rival it even if they possessed a similar level of cultivation. Even the pure, water-attributed saint force within her seemed to undergo some minute changes. The problems with Huang's water spirit's body were finally resolved completely, allowing Jianchen to relax. The two of them finally separated, and they pulled out clothes from their space rings to put on at the same time. What differed was they felt inside. Jianchen was strewn between different emotions, while Huang felt pleasant, satisfied, and happy. Jianchen. Huang could not help but call out Jianchen's name softly after putting on her clothes. She stuck to Jianchen's body once more, laying on his chest silently with a satisfied and happy smile. She was like glue. Jianchen gently wrapped his arm around Huang's figure and slowly inhaled the fragrance of Huang. He knew that Huang had truly become his woman now, both on paper and in actuality. At the same time, it was the second woman he had entwined with. The first was the cold, prideful beauty, the heavenly enchantress. The two of them only embraced each other due to their special circumstance because of the fact that their lives were threatened. As for Huang, it was the same case, but it was different from the first time as well. Huang was passionate and threw herself at Jianchen, offering her body to him. Sigh, Jianchen exhaled inside. He could not help but think of everything that had happened in the past, the scene where he accidentally came across Huang in the river outside Walrant City. Jianchen could not help but emotionally sigh inside as he thought about how he first met Huang. Who would have thought that the girl he had accidentally met would end up with a relationship like this with him? Suddenly, Jianchen seemed to think of something. He quickly dismissed his thoughts and said to Huang, "Waner, is the ancient secret technique that binds your fate, cast by the ancestor of the Huanggu clan, still present on you? Huang nodded and said nothing else. Jian Chen's heart slightly sank after confirming that it was still there. He then looked at the sea goddess. "Your Majesty, may I ask if you have some understanding regarding these types of secret techniques and if you are able to undo them or not?" Jian Chen did not feel indebted to the sea goddess even though she had helped him a lot. He knew he would pay her back in the future, when the worldly ebb of the sea realm occurs. "I can help your friend reconstruct her body in my current form, but I am unable to break the secret technique. However, it is not difficult to remove it. You can take her to a protector. There should be people there who can manage," said the sea goddess. Afterward, Jian Chen and Huang bid farewell to the sea goddess before leaving the underground room together. They discovered that a large portion of the Huanggu clan people had left once they returned to the surface. Only a small portion of old people remained. While Jian Chen was underground, the clansmen moved a large portion of their clan away, fearing Jian Chen's rage because of Huang Tianba and Huang's sufferings, hoping that they could save at least just a few people. Only a few older people who were loyal to the family and did not fear death remained. If it was before, Jian Chen would definitely vent his anger on these people, or even wipe out the entire clan. However, he was now a Saint King and his mentality had undergone some changes. Coupled with the fact that the clansmen had no idea that Huang Tianba had been trapped, he did not make it difficult for them. He left with Luan, returning to the Huang family. The seal within Huang Tianba was removed by He Yi. Together with the personal treatment from the artifact spirit, Huang Tianba recovered extremely quickly, having returned to peak condition long ago. The Huanggu clan ancestor thrown into the artifact space by Jian Chen was also brutally tortured by Huang Tianba, making him feel like he was better off dead. However, his life was not threatened due to the secret technique he had cast on Huang. Huang Tianba and Huang returned to the Huang family, and the news of them being trapped in the Huanggu clan quickly spread through the entire family. The news immediately caused a great uproar. Afterward, Huang Tianba took the clan treasure, the Xiao Bao, with him, personally leading group of experts to the Huanggu clan in a threatening manner. He swore to wipe out the Huanggu clan, to make it vanish from the continent. Meanwhile, Jian Chen and Huang stayed at the Huang family in ease. They did not pay any attention to Huang Tianba's actions. Once Huang Tianba returned, Jian Chen learned that Huang Tianba had used the Xiao Bao to destroy the region where the clan had settled down and that the remaining elderly members of the Huanggu clan were attacked collectively by the experts he had brought along. He killed them all, and also sent half of the Huang family experts to pursue the group of people who had fled from the Huanggu clan. He wanted to end the Huanggu clan completely. Jian Chen did not bother too much with these matters. Although he knew that many of the people were innocent, the concepts of innocence and benevolence did not exist on this continent. If the Huang family did not completely wipe out the Huanggu clan, the Huang family would face its end once the remaining members of the Huanggu clan rose up and became peak-level experts. Chapter 1071, Going to Mercenary City. The sun was blood-red as it neared the horizon. Jian Chen stood straight, like a sword, at the peak of a range of mountains in white robes. He stared at the red clouds, as if he was in a trance, without moving at all. A sea of white clouds floated beneath him. Where he currently stood was the tallest mountain peak in the mountain range where the Huang family resided. The mountains were so steep and dangerous that they were unscalable. The wild wind violently buffeted him high up in the air, whistling past his ears. Coupled with it were the roars of beasts from the forests in the distance, sounding like the dreadful cries of ghosts as they fused together with the wind. A white figure quickly shot over from the distance, arriving on the mountain peak where Jian Chen stood in an instant. Afterward, she walked up to his side and gently grabbed Jian Chen's arm, resting her head on his shoulder. Her face was filled with happiness and satisfaction. She was Huang. Huang was dressed especially prettily today, wearing makeup to accentuate her alluring beauty. Her eyes were bright and seemed to possess a wondrous charm, possessing some grace in her purity. It was enchanting. Her glossy, black hair fell down her shoulders like a waterfall. She had worn a white, luxurious dress on purpose today, so she looked like a goddess. Standing next to Jian Shen, who was also in white robes, the two of them possessed the aura of an immortal couple. Huang leaned close to Jian Shen's bosom. She was filled with happiness and joy, watching the sun set with Jian Shen. Neither one said anything. As the blood-red sunlight gradually faded, darkness gradually descended upon the dusk. The moment when the world was about to be engulfed by darkness, the whistling of wind vibrated from afar and a figure shot over like a comet. He made his way toward Jian Shen with lightning speed, arriving in just a few seconds. "My beloved junior, why have you called me here?" Huang Tianba chuckled with a smile. He had even begun to refer to Jian Shen as his junior instead of brother like before. He felt extremely happy, especially when he saw how Huang and Jian Shen were together. Huang became embarrassed with how she stuck to Jian Shen so intimately after her great-grandfather arrived. She hesitantly let go of Jian Shen's arm before glancing at Huang Tianba with a slight blush. She gently said, "Great-grandfather." Huang Tianba chuckled even more when he saw how Huang became embarrassed like a little girl. He nodded but did not say anything more. Jian Shen slowly turned around and looked at Huang Tianba calmly. He smiled, "Senior Huang, I've called you here this time because I have something important to discuss with you." Huang Tianba immediately became stern when he heard how it was important. He said, "Please continue." Jian Shen continued, "Senior Huang, I want to take you to Mercenary City and get the barrier spirit to invoke the mysteries of the world so you can comprehend them and thus break through. Are you willing to come?" "What? To get the barrier spirit of Mercenary City to invoke the mysteries of the world so I can comprehend and break through?" Huang Tianba became surprised. He stared fixedly at Jian Shen, wide-eyed, as disbelief flooded his face. He felt shocked inside, struggled to convince himself that that was what Jian Shen had said. Huang Tianba also knew a little regarding the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. He did not know a lot, but he did know one thing: the barrier spirit had existed since ancient times and was an existence that had survived through the ages. It was extremely powerful, always playing the role of the Mercenary City's protector god. What he found difficult to believe was that Jian Shen could actually get the barrier to invoke the mysteries of the world and assist people in making breakthroughs. It was just too shocking. No similar rumors had ever appeared on the continent, let alone the fact that anyone knew the barrier spirit could do such things. "Senior Huang, are you willing to come?" Jian Shen seemed to smile at Huang Tianba through his eyes. I'm willing. Of course I'm willing. How could I miss something so good?" Huang Tianba returned to his senses and hurriedly replied. He was afraid that his late reply would make him miss out on such a rare opportunity. Huang Tianba left afterward as he was ravished by joy. He handed over some matters within the clan before leaving with Jian Shen on the morning of the next day. He went with Jian Shen, making their way to the Changyang clan in Lore City. Huang left with Jian Shen. Although the problems with her water spirit's body had been resolved, the imprint left in her head by the Huanggu clan ancestor still remained. While Jian Shen stayed at the Huang family, he had visited the Huanggu clan ancestor trapped within the saint artifact. He wanted to learn the method of releasing the seal from him. However, he was a sly old fox who had lived for over 2,000 years, so he knew that the secret technique was the only thing keeping him alive. How could he tell someone else how to release it so easily? In the end, Jian Shen failed to learn about the method of release from the old man no matter what he tried. Jian Shen dared not harm the life of the Huanggu clan ancestor due to the restrictions of the secret technique. With no other choice, he left the old man be. He would come back to deal with him after he found a way to remove the seal from Huang. Jian Shen returned to the Changyang clan very quickly with Huang and Huang Tianba. The two of them had stopped being outsiders to the rest of the clan long ago since they had gotten to know each other quite some time ago. As a result, they were warmly welcomed as soon as they arrived. Bai Hai warmly welcomed them in particular. As he was good friends with Huang Tianba, he was pulled aside to drink as soon as they met. Jianshan stayed in the Changyang clan for one day, before leaving for Mercenary City with Bai Hai, Huang Tianba, Ong Ling, Huang Luan, and Uncle Chang. They traveled through a spatial gate constructed by Roy Jin. The people beside Jianshan right now were only the people he trusted most. There was also Jetta Tai, but Jianshan still did not completely trust him, which was why he did not take Jetta Tai with him this time. As for Changyang Zhu Yunkong, a seal remained in his head, so he was unable to increase his strength at all. It would only be harmful to him otherwise. Big brother, you've finally come. As soon as Jianshan arrived in Mercenary City, Xiaoling appeared before him in an illusionary form. Perhaps because she saw Jianshan, her pure face was filled with happiness. Jianshan could help but smile when he saw Xiaoling. He had begun to view Xiaoling as his own younger sister since long ago. Xiaoling, how's Mingdong? The 3 pieces of beast fur in your friend's hand are not simple, big brother. The mysteries of the world are actually hidden within them. I used my own powers to awaken them inside, and then with some hard work, I invoked the mysteries of the world on the side as well, so your friend finally reached Saint Ruler. However, he's cultivating right now, said Xiaoling. She was proud of herself. Mingdong's also become a Saint Ruler, murmured Jianshan. He felt happy for Mingdong inside. Jianshan, who are you talking to? A pleasant voice rang out from beside him. Huang Wan asked Jianshan as she hung onto Jianshan's arm, her eyes shining with curiosity. It was not just her, even Huang Tianba, Bai Hai, Yang Ling and Chang Wuji stared at him in amazement. Jianshan knew that they could not see Xiaoling, but he did not explain his actions. He said to Xiaoling, they're all friends and senior of me. I hope Xiaoling can assist them in their cultivation in the future. Xiaoling obediently nodded, yes. Big brother, don't worry. Xiaoling will definitely work hard to increase their strength. With that, she waved her hand and Jianshan's group immediately felt everything go black. They had been dragged underground by Xiaoling's abilities, and even Roy Jin came along. When the scene before them brightened up once more, they discovered that they had arrived in a completely sealed room. There were no cracks on the wall at all, completely flawless like nature. There was not even a door out. Jianshan looked around a little. He knew that the room was completely created from energy, probably prepared by Xiaoling specially for Bai Hai and the others. Big brother, you can cultivate here in the future. Xiaoling will invoke the mysteries of the world for you, but comprehending them will completely depend on you. Xiaoling's illusionary body reappeared before Jianshan as she levitated in the air. This time, Bai Hai, Huang Tianba, Yang Ling, Huang Wan, and Chang Wuji's attention were all drawn toward her at the same time. They could all see her. My dear Junior, is this the barrier spirit of Mercenary City? Huang Tianba could not help but ask as he stared unblinkingly at Xiaoling. He was filled with curiosity. Jianshan nodded before introducing everyone to Xiaoling. He left Huang Tianba, Bai Hai, Yang Ling, and Chang Wuji there. Jianshan also took the 3 pieces of beast fur from Mingdong before handing them to Chang Wuji. He wished that Chang Wuji could reach Saint Ruler as soon as possible. Chang Wuji's talent was relatively ordinary. He had not reached Saint Ruler even after close to 1,000 years. Now, due to the fact that he was too old and extremely close to the end of his life, the effects of heavenly resources would be minimal. The assistance from Xiaoling and the 3 pieces of beast fur was his final chance at reaching Saint Ruler. If he could not break through even under such circumstances, it would be impossible for him in the future. Afterward, Jianshan asked Xiaoling whether she could remove the secret technique in Huang Wan's head. The outcome, however, was extremely disappointing. Xiaoling was an expert of the origin realm, but she was not an omnipotent god. It was impossible to break such a profound ancient secret technique planted directly on a person's soul even if someone had heavenly abilities. Xiaoling was in the origin realm. Her battle prowess was extremely great, and she was basically invincible on the Tianyuan continent. However, she was just too negligent. Since the ancient times, she had mostly spent her time sleeping. The number of abilities she knew were just too few, so she could do nothing about the secret technique that entwined the fates of two people. Compared to the sea goddess, Xiaoling might have been slightly more powerful, but she was nowhere near the sea goddess in terms of knowledge, experience, and secret techniques. For certain matters, Xiaoling could not even compare to the mercenaries who had spent some time wandering the Tianyuan continent. Chapter 1072. Comprehending the mysteries of the world. Jian Chen could not help but become slightly dejected seeing how Xiaoling could do nothing. He sighed and sighed, looks like I can only go ask Senior Tian Jian and the people of the Protector clans in the future. I hope I can obtain the method to remove the seal from Huang from them. Jian Chen and Huang stayed behind to get Xiaoling to invoke the mysteries of the world for them. Although Jian Chen possessed the strength of a 7th heavenly layer Saint King with his Emperor armament, his comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the level of a 7th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. He possessed the ability to kill Saint Kings, but he was never able to rip open space gates, always requiring Rui Jin and He Yu to assist him. Jian Chen wanted to make up for this weakness as soon as possible right now. He did not wish for his comprehension to reach the same level of strength he possessed, only so that it could reach the level of Saint Kings. That way, he would be able to create his own space gates. It was evident that Jian Chen's talent could be described as unprecedented. Both his cultivation speed and rate of comprehension was supreme. He submerged all his attention into the mysteries of the world invoked by Xiaoling, fusing it into his soul so he could comprehend it closely. Ordinary people would devote all their efforts into the comprehension for the mysteries of the world. The mysteries they comprehended would be hazy, uncertain, and illusionary, like an image that was concealed by mist. They needed to get past this mist first, to see the reality within, if they wanted to achieve any comprehension. Now that Jian Chen and the others possessed Xiaoling's assistance, they seemed to be able to see the image itself, able to observe it clearly. It was not concealed by any mist, nor any illusionary and uncertain obstructions. They managed to avoid many winding paths, so it was much easier for them to comprehend compared to other saint rulers. This was not spoon-feeding them. Although the mysteries of the world were invoked by Xiaoling, they were still required to comprehend them and understand if they wanted to benefit from them. Otherwise, it would just be a waste of effort. They would gain nothing. Jian Chen, Huang, Biyao, and Huang Tianba were completely submerged within the invoked mysteries. They felt that the mysteries of the world were so close to them. They had never remembered that the mysteries could be so close. They felt the mysteries were so clear in that moment, no longer hazy like before. In the room where Changwu stayed, the 3 pieces of beast fur flew about by themselves. A profound presence radiated from them as they slowly revolved around Changwu. Changwu seemed like a meditating old monk, sitting there without moving at all. All his attention was submerged into them. He could feel that he seemed to vaguely understand something, but he failed to grasp onto it during the process. Yang Ling also sat there silently. He did not have the assistance of the beast furs, so he needed to work hard himself and comprehend the mysteries of the world in order to reach Saint Ruler. They all lost sense of time as they cultivated. In the blink of an eye, they had all stayed in Mercenary City for a year. All of them benefited greatly, Jian Chen in particular. He reached the 8th heavenly layer in cultivation, and was continuing toward the 9th. Biyao and Huang Tianba gained great benefits as well. They had reached the 6th and 5th heavenly layers respectively long ago, and were close to reaching the peak. Now with Xiaoling's help, they comprehended the mysteries of the world in the most direct way, thus improving extremely quickly. They all made a breakthrough to the next level of cultivation, reaching the 7th and 6th heavenly layers. Huang had only reached Saint Ruler recently, but her strength had reached the 3rd heavenly layer due to Jian Chen. Her foundation was nowhere as firm as Huang Tianba's or Biyao's, so her strength did not increase that year. She did not go without benefits, however. Although she remained at the 3rd heavenly layer, her comprehensions of the mysteries increased quite a lot. She was advancing to the 4th heavenly layer. Meanwhile, Yang Ling and Changwu remained the same before, without making any advances towards Saint Ruler. At the same time, a huge divine hall levitated in the dark and cold outer space directly above the continent. It was a magnificent and extravagant structure, completely white and glowing with a pure light. It illuminated the surrounding darkness. A huge throne floated 3 meters in the air in the center of the top floor. A layer of visible moonlight force slowly coiled around it, shining with soft light and dyeing the room white. Yu sat on the throne with the moon god's scepter in hand. She was meditating as powerful ripples of energy pulsed from her from time to time. The moonlight force around the throne was constantly absorbed by her, allowing her presence to rapidly increase. As Jian Chen and the others comprehended the mysteries of the world through Xiao Ling's help, Yu did not idle about either. She remained in the cold and cheerless divine hall, silently enduring the boredom and loneliness to work hard on increasing her strength. After the modification of her constitution with the moon essence and gaining the cultivation method that surpassed the saint tier, Yu's rate of improvement was no slower than Huang with her water spirit's body, maybe even far exceeding it. In a mere year, Yu reached the 4th cycle as a heaven saint master from the 1st cycle. If she continued like that, she would only need another half a year to reach the 6th cycle. He Yu, Hong Lian, Carolot, and Kazda Jianxiong also recovered to their peak conditions after having all their energy drained away by the bright moon divine hall a year ago. Carolot and Kazda Jianxiong left the artifact space half a year ago, returning to their clans after bidding farewell to Jian Chen. Kara Liwei had also left the artifact space. She congratulated Jian Chen on the matter with Yu obtaining the bright moon divine hall before returning with her ancestor. However, she felt very envious when she mentioned the divine hall. Rui Jin, He Yu, and Hong Lian all remained within the artifact space. They were all at the great perfection of Saint King and only an inch away from Saint Emperor. They needed to overcome this gap by themselves, as any help from Xiao Ling was useless. A mountain range, always surrounded by poisonous mist, existed within the Karl Empire of the 3 great empires. It was extremely well known in the empire, where almost everyone knew about it. Not only had it existed in the empire for over 100,000 years, it had taken the lives of countless adventurous mercenaries and experts. Even saint rulers could meet their end in the mountain range. As time went on, the mountain range was labeled as a forbidden region within the Karl Empire by countless mercenaries and experts. It was named the Soul-Claiming Mountains. A deathly silence did not exist in the mountain range, instead, it was teeming with life. Countless green vegetation grew there, even great trees that were hundreds or even thousands of years old. Magical beasts would move about from time to time in the thickets. It was no different than an ordinary forest. However, the only difference was that everything was poisonous. Poison was present everywhere. Not only were the plants poisonous, even the soil was poisonous, enough to threaten the lives of Earth Saint Masters. The deeper one went into the mountain range, the poison would grow stronger and stronger, where even Heaven Saint Masters would struggle to stay afloat in the end. All the magical beasts that thrived there were powerful, venomous beasts without a doubt. A bare mountain peak stood in the depths of the mountain range. It was surrounded by vast quantities of poisonous mist, so dense that it had almost condensed into a liquid. Even the high-class magical beasts that thrived in the mountain range could not approach it. In the center of the mountain range existed a huge space carved out by a person. Fist-sized luminous pearls were lodged into the ceiling. They radiated with bright light and illuminated the dark cavern. A middle-aged man, who seemed to be in his 40s, sat there like a sculpture. He wore black robes. The man's appearance was ordinary, but his face was resolute. The muscles on his face seemed to be stiff, as if he never smiled. It made him seem rather straightforward at the same time. There was an extremely eye-catching scar that stretched across his forehead. It was terrifying, enough to frighten people just by looking at it. Beside him stood a 1.3-meter-long sword, stuck in the soil. The sword seemed ordinary, but a vast, chilling pressure emanated from within. Suddenly, the man snapped open his eyes, and they immediately began to glow with 2 odd and different lights. One of the eyes was sharp, filled with vigor and was firm, while the other eye possessed a demonic light. The light flashed about the eye, as if it was a will-o-wisp jumping about. Kakakakaka, by Dao, my soul has undergone a basic fusion with yours. You can now use a portion of my powers, and you can use all of the power in my saint weapon, the heaven-quaking sword. You now possess the strength to move without restraint on the Tianyuan continent. Go deal with your matters as soon as possible. Don't forget about the promise after you finish with them. An odd, husky laughter rang through the middle-aged man's head. The voice was extremely unpleasant, like the sobs of a ghost. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.